Our story begins outright with a random hero party, reminiscing on how far they have come on their journey. Our protagonist Kuga wonders why everyone is talking to him like they're about to roast his bum alive. Kuga asks what the cold shoulder is about. A dude walks up and tells him that they are grateful for his help, but they need him out the party now. Kuga is shocked to hear this news, so he confronts them directly since they have been together since their diaper days. The guy goes on to say some vague statement that Kuga is just a jack of all trades but master of none. The guy then tells him that he alone will enter the hidden room as a farewell gift from them all. Kuga contemplates his life up till this point because this is the end of the road for him. Some girl from the back questions Sarah and wonders if he is too extreme with his methods. Sarah tells the girl to shut up the way your boss tells you that your opinion is not wanted. Kuga walks to the door as he drops the coldest line in all manga history, that he will accept this treatment. As he walks past the door, he is greeted by the monster of this dungeon, a goth girl with vampire teeth. The baddie greets him at the door, wondering why he is here all alone. In this world about 50 years ago, dungeons appeared out of nowhere. Magic and monsters existed inside these dungeons. And then a new job opened up on the market. With the discovery of magic, people also discovered revival magic, even though it could only be used once. With this, becoming a dungeon master became as popular as being a singer on SoundCloud. Among these dungeons, there is a room called the Hidden Room of No Return. In the past, no one has ever made it out of this dungeon once they were inside. Those who lived only did so by the help of resurrection magic and never again stepped inside the dungeon. Kuga faces the lovely monster lady, who wonders why he is all alone. She wonders if was banished. Kuga agrees with her as she laughs at his circumstances. She asks why he is so calm when all his friends kinda ditched him. Kuga confesses that he knew he was about to get thrown out and maybe it was for the best. The monster lady tells him that she is happy he came to see her. She screams that she was so bored as she unleashes an attack. Kuga blocks her with the sword as she flirts with how rough he is. Kuga blocks another attack as he realizes what he is facing. The little lady has vampire skills and teleportation. If she didn't whisper in his ear, then he would have gotten hit. This gives him an opportunity to go on the offense as he strikes her. She barely dodges as they stand face to face. The vampire lady takes the opportunity and stabs Kuga in the shoulder. Kuga heals himself as the vampire realizes that this guy is the jack of all trades. Kuga agrees with her, but he knows what a stupid skill this is. He was fooled by the title of the hero, but now he knows all the basics like swordsmanship, defensive magic, offensive magic, support and healing. He even has high-level stats, but he can never utilize all these to the full potential. Compared to those who are masters in their jobs, he is nothing. Only 4 people can enter a dungeon at once, so naturally everyone chooses one person of each mastery to fill in the roles. Each of the members need to make most of the strength. In his party, Sarah was the sword saint, Julia was the saintess, while Mikari was the support. Since Kuga was able to heal, he had no other choice but to be the default healer for this team of losers. While fighting the baddie, he noticed something awakening inside him. He realizes how free he feels, now that he doesn't have to worry about keeping everyone in his party alive. The vampire asks Kuga what the floating device in the air is. The device is a streaming drone, and the vampire has no clue what that even means. Kuga wonders what he did in his past life to explain to a vampire what a streaming drone is. Kuga explains streaming to the vampire and how people can watch their fight as they leave their comments. The vampire is very impressed with all this, but this was sort of a goodbye gift from his previous party. The vampire smiles and thanks him for explaining everything to him without losing patience. She asks what the comments are saying about her right now, totally forgetting that she is the final boss of this dungeon. Kuga reads the comments, most of them simping over the vampire as she blushes. She calls them all creeps and wonders if all humans are like this. Kuga thinks that everyone is being honest, so the vampire asks him to teach her how to stream too. Kuga is in shock at this request, because the vampire is not supposed to be this way. He wonders if she can even leave this dungeon, because she is the final boss here, and she's kind of tied to this room. The vampire lady tells her role. Every time someone enters her dungeon, she gets notified, so she puts her dress on and teleports to the room. Just a few minutes ago, she was taking her beauty nap when someone entered the dungeon. She then grabs Kuga and tells him to stream with her. She comments on his blood, but then changes her mind and says that he just seems like the perfect partner to do this with. Kuga smiles while he inwardly wonders what he ever did to deserve this fate. This chick wanted to only learn how to stream, and now she wants him to be her partner in crime. Kuga thinks back to a problem he used to have regarding his purpose. When they were all students, they started exploring dungeons for the fun. He was able to keep his friends safe and protect them from harm. He couldn't even say anything interesting back then since the spotlight was never on him. He doesn't even care if his career ends here, which is why he took Sarah's goodbye gift. He was in a lot of despair. Kuga looks at the vampire and finally agrees to her offer to stream with her as her partner. Kuga asks if the vampire has something she even wants to stay on stream. The vampire introduces herself as Alicia. Kuga asks who even named her, but the vampire doesn't remember. She knows she is Alicia even since she was born. Kuga introduces himself and tells his age. He is 24 years old. Kuga asks her again if there's something she wants to stream specifically. Alicia admits that she had way too much time on her hands these days, so she was wondering what if she wanted to come on top of everyone. They say there is a final boss who is mighty strong, so maybe she can become one of the final bosses too. Kuga asks her the plans, and she reveals that first, she needs to become an SS-ranked boss first. She hands him a sheet with all the requirements to become an SS-ranked boss. The sheet contains a list of tasks the boss needs to complete. Kuga takes a look and he is surprised at how defined it is. He asks if it is important for her to defeat the invaders. Alicia says that it is important, but she didn't think it through because Kuga is an invader too. He wouldn't want to fight his own people. Kuga tells her that he doesn't mind one bit that she has to eliminate his people. There is no rule saying that he cannot fight other invaders, so he doesn't even care. All dungeon explorers are required to cast the automatic revival spell on them. Without this, they cannot pass through the checkpoints in the dungeon. Relive is a special type of magic that allows the invaders to come back to life outside the dungeon, but it only works once in a lifetime. If someone dies and comes back to life, they can never enter that dungeon again. Since the invaders know they can be brought to life, they allow themselves to live a free life to a certain extent. Fighting is one of those freedoms. Kuga mentions that there are some streamers that make fighting between them their main content. He explains that there are 4 S-ranked parties and the most prominent one is called the Duelists. Alicia looks at the paper and the requirements. She needs to defeat an S-ranked party 2 out of the 4. She asks what party Kuga was in. Kuga reveals that he was in an A-ranked party before he got dumped. Alicia asks just to clarify if there are people above his rank too, and Kuga agrees. He asks if Alicia has a rank, but she doesn't since she isn't even listed as a boss. Alicia thinks that starting from 0 is much more fun. She reveals the purpose of their channel. They will stream her journey as a rank as boss, who becomes the final boss. By making it a documentary, she will make the humans fear her too and not stream in dungeons again. Kuga smiles at her ambitions, but he wonders where he fits in. A few hours later, Alicia sets up the camera and asks people if they can see her. The comments start rolling in and she starts her first ever stream. Kuga takes a look at the comments and realizes that this number is very impressive for a first stream, but the credit goes to the power of being a woman. Alicia asks him if she is doing fine, and Kuga realizes this is the first time a monster is doing something like this. It was obvious that news of a banished explorer and a monster teaming up would spread like wildfire. Alicia tells their objective of the first stream. They will go explorer hunting today. Alicia spies some innocent invaders from her hiding spot. She shows them to Kuga because these guys showed up without a single thought. The party enjoys themselves and celebrates for making it this far. They think about how everything is so nostalgic to them. The girl looks at the guy as she confesses her feelings for him. She really wanted to be in the same party as the guy. In a flash, the kids drop to the ground, their cliché confession in the dust as Alicia makes her moves. The kids wonder why this is happening to them. They were hunting monsters as usual, and made it through their usual fights. They didn't face any problems, and they weren't being overconfident either. The guy reaches out to try to touch the girl, but before he can reach her, Alicia jumps on the girl and thanks the boy for all his hard work. The boy starts crying as he asks Alicia who she is. Alicia says that she is just hunting humans today. She doesn't know why the kids are so mad. This is what they do to her kind every day. She asks why the humans stream the dungeons. It's most probably because they need money or recognition. She understands wanting all that, but the monsters are risking their lives every day for these humans and their hobbies. She tells the kid to be more grateful. The kid gets angry and tries to muster up the strength to face her again, but before he can even move 1 inch, she crushes him using her powers. Kuga looks at the remains of the party because Alicia went all out with them. These kids were just a B class of heroes who got wiped out in an instant. He knows that a person with her strength shouldn't be casually lounging around on this level of the dungeon. Kuga mourns the kids as Alicia asks if the views are right. Alicia looks at the camera and asks how she did, and if the humans are horrified yet. The comments come in and people call her all sorts of bad names, but among these there are degenerates who feel rush of energy watching the kids meet their doom. Alicia realizes that her plan has backfired, but little does she know what these humans are really up to. She begs them to understand that monsters are scary and bad. She asks Kuga if humans are some sort of monsters too, or maybe even worse. Kuga knows that he cannot deny what Alicia has said. With the kinds of things humans do, Alicia's plan might have to go much off track than what she planned. Alicia offers her hand to Kuga, who hesitates at first but takes it anyway. She comments on how shy he is. Grabbing his hands, she teleports them both to the city of monsters. She asks how he feels, and welcomes him to the city of monsters. She streams as she introduces the city of monsters, which is only accessible to the monsters. The viewers comment on the city as they end up siding with the monsters once again. She tells Kuga that he is the first human to ever set foot in the monster city. Alicia assures him that the city isn't off limits to the humans, so he shouldn't worry, but Kuga worries over his safety. She tells him not to worry since they are together, but then fusses over what title to call him. He is her something, but she doesn't know what they are. With this, he is given the title of Alicia's something. Kuga wonders if it is okay to even stream the City of Monsters, and since this is the first time the humans eat it up in the stream, Kuga looks at Alicia as he thinks of her goals. Aside from becoming the final boss, she has a secondary objective that she wants to give a shot to. She wants to instill fear in the humans and prevent them from doing unethical things such as dungeon streaming. Humans don't know that monsters also have similar lives to their own, so Alicia's method might actually bring some change. He wonders if Alicia's actions are calculated or if she is just winging it up as they go. Alicia guides him to her temporary house as all the monsters stare at Kuga like he is fresh meat. A huge monster stops Alicia, and the comments go wild at the appearance of an S-ranked monster. Alicia greets Min, the Minotaur, and confuses Kuga and the viewers at how friendly they are. Alicia introduces Min and Kuga. The Minotaur bows to Kuga as she greets him. Then she warns Alicia that bringing a human to the City of Monsters is a bit inappropriate. She asks why, and Min tells her that it's kind of obvious. Kuga notices how cute Minotaur actually sounds. Min compliments Kuga for being able to walk through the city full of monsters with courage. Even the viewers agree with Min. Kuga knows that entering the monster world would be considered rude, but he had 2 reasons to be there. He knew he would be in danger for not rescuing the kids from Alicia's wrath. Secondly, he realizes that Alicia can't actually escape the dungeon. He did consider separating from each other, but they have no way of communicating with each other. They might be able to meet at some point, but if that chance never comes, then he will never meet Alicia again. While Kuga fights his demons in his mind, Alicia laughs at the commenters who call Kuga a weirdo. Alicia asks what Kumazemi is, and Kuga reveals that it was the name of his previous party. Alicia turns to Min and tells her not to lay a hand on him because he might be human, but he is her something. Min asks what she means, and I totally agree with the comments because only she is the sane one here. The stream ends and Alicia asks to take a little detour. She wonders if there's something Kuga likes. She offers him an apple and says she loves green apples. Alicia buys the apples for 500 yen and Kuga is shocked to learn that monsters use the same currency as humans. Since this is a Japanese dungeon, then in other places, other human currency must be used as well. It has already been confirmed that each country contains 1 dungeon each. The Japanese dungeon is in Tokyo's Ariake. The other dungeons in the Asian regions has China and Thailand, so Japan is kind of isolated. Kuga asks Alicia how she got the money, and she explains that she receives some every day. Kuga wonders if it's basic income, but Alicia has no idea what that means, so he offers to pay for the apples. Alicia promises to treat him today instead. Once in Alicia's mansion, she tells Kuga to relax. The mansion is her temporary home till she builds her own castle. Kuga planned on staying in a nearby inn at first, but Alicia asked him why he was hesitating and welcomed him into her house. For dinner, all Kuga got was a singular green apple. Kuga takes a bite out of his own meal as he prepares for bed. At bedtime, Alicia reveals that there is only 1 bed in her huge mansion. Whatever will they do now? Alicia panics because she doesn't know what to do, now that there is only 1 bed and they can't even share this bed. Particularly because it will be very odd for a human to sleep with a monster. Kuga looks like he is done with this entire matter. Alicia bends down on the floor, ready to swallow her pride because she cannot let her guests sleep on the floor. Before she can accept the situation, Kuga pulls out a sleeping bag from nowhere and lies it on the floor. He crawls in and goes to sleep like none of this matters to him. In the middle of the night, Alicia makes her way to a helpless Kuga. She licks her lips as she leans down to take a bite out of our sleepy boy. Before she can sink her teeth in Kuga, he wakes up. Alicia apologizes to Kuga and then wonders out loud why the anesthesia isn't working on him. Kuga asks what she is doing on top of him. Alicia reveals a syringe as she asks for a bit of his blood. Instead of fighting her or being disgusted, Kuga asks if she can do all this while he is awake. Alicia apologizes once again as she tells him she cannot resist the taste of his blood. Kuga thinks back to the entire matter. He wonders if the whole streaming business doesn't matter to her, and she was just addicted to the taste of his blood. Kuga loosens his shirt as he tells her to just take a bite because giving a little amount of blood won't be the end of him. Alicia jumps in joy as she hugs him for his kindness. She draws blood with her syringe and enjoys a single drop of Kuga's blood. Kuga asks if the blood he gave her is enough, and then asks why she didn't bite him directly with her fangs. Alicia says that it would be very inappropriate for her to do so. Even if Kuga was a relative of hers, she would still prefer her syringe method. In the morning, Alicia goes back to her human hunting plans. She takes down 26 humans. Kuga keeps a mental count of how many humans she has taken down. She took down 4 yesterday, and including these 4 makes a total of 8. Back when she was the hidden boss, she had taken down 18 invaders. Together they have 26 down and need to take down only 4 more. The condition to take down 30 invaders will be met that way. The viewers praise Alicia for her hard work. Kuga realizes that the viewers are adjusting well to their own kind, being taken down. There are even messages of support in the chat, in between those that show disgust. Ajimiya tells Kuga that she is on her way to find more targets. As they walk away, someone calls them out. A party of monster hunters greets the duo as they introduce themselves. These guys are an A-ranked party. These guys are the evil slayers. There is a total of 4 S-ranked parties. They have different playstyles. The Lusian uses the traditional playing style. The Aoi King uses a solo dungeon isolation technique. The duelists like to play against other players, and the evil slayer are the ones notorious for taking down monsters in very cruel ways. The underlings of the evil slayers are the monster slayers, who aren't different from the OG. The leader calls them out and says that they are up to something pretty interesting. He calls out the attention they're catching with their streams, and Alicia happily agrees. The viewers tell Alicia to be careful because this party is very aggressive. The monster slayers make their moves as Alicia and Kuga both move out of the way. The leader mocks them for being able to dodge this attack. Alicia confirms from Kuga if these are the A-rank class. Alicia smiles because instead of looking for some kids to bully, the kids walked up to her in perfect condition. Alicia smiles because with this she would be able to meet 2 conditions to become an SS class boss. The leader attacks again, but Alicia blocks him without much force. The viewers start commenting on the playstyle of the party. While Alicia is busy with the leader, another one lets out a fireball towards her. She moves her head out of the way and throws the fireball back at the kids. The kids block the counter move as the leader jumps to eliminate Alicia again. Alicia looks back at the guy as she moves out of the way of his quick slash. The leader calls out Kuga, who protectively stands in front of Alicia. Alicia comments that she doesn't need any help. She calls him a good fellow for finally making the move since all he did this entire time was stay in her shadow. She tells him to handle the leader while she takes out the other 3. The leader promises that he won't let Alicia get away with all this. The leader makes fun of Kuga for stepping up, mocking him that he cannot win in close combat. The leader is a fencer quick, and his skills are all about close-range combat. As a hero, Kuga can use all sorts of tricks, but they aren't excellent. On the other hand, the leader can use attack most ruthlessly. The leader calls out Kuga, telling him to end it already. He calls Kuga a talentless loser, as he uses his acceleration magic to jump at Kuga. He keeps yapping throughout the fight, asking how full of himself Kuga is to team up with monsters. He laughs at how Kuga's teammates ditched him too because of what a big idiot he is. Kuga is taken back by the statement as he thinks of his previous party. He knows Kumazemi would have done just fine without him, but they were everything to him. Kuga clutches his sword as he accepts that this is all in the past now. He slashes through the leader at the same time Alicia is done with her fight. They look at the mess together. Even the viewers are in shock at the brutality of the fight. Alicia asks if Kuga has finally crossed over to the other side. Kuga admits that now there is no turning back for him, but he doesn't feel bad because he knows that the kids aren't really in heaven. They will come back to life outside the dungeon. But with this, the monster slayers would forever be banned from entering the Japanese dungeon. Alicia asks how it feels to get his first kill, but Kuga thinks it was the same as taking down a monster. Satisfied with his answer, Alicia moves on to the job interface. She realizes another job has opened up for her. The chat congratulates Alicia for her achievements, and Kuga realizes he didn't tell the chat what the purpose of all this is. While Kuga and Alicia are looking at the screens, someone rushes from behind them with their weapon out. Alicia puts some distance between her and the attacker. Kuga looks at the person and realizes it's his former party member. Julia steps up to face Alicia alone, and the chat goes wild at the entry. Alicia tells Julia that her sudden attack surprised her. She asks what Julia's problem is because she came out of nowhere and started attacking. Julia tells her to shut up because she is erasing all their hard work. Alicia has no idea what she is even saying. The chat warns Alicia that this woman is an old party member of Kuga's. Alicia doesn't even remember the party name, so Julia reminds him. Alicia says that she has no idea what is happening, but she knows that Julia is one of those people who kicked Kuga out. Julia confirms, so Alicia asks what she wants with her now. Kuga looks at the catfight taking place in front of him. He remembers that when he was given the dismissal, she didn't say a single word and chose to keep her mouth shut, so no one knew what she felt about the whole betrayal. Julia starts with a phrase about how she isn't good at talking, so she will just beat up Alicia. Julia attacks Alicia again, who dodges. The chat goes wild over the 2 women fighting. Julia is also known as Miss Gorilla because of her muscles. She is a saintess who spams magic like crazy, and she isn't even afraid to hit you at point blank. Other than that, she loves a good hand-to-hand combat, which is why she is called Miss Gorilla. She is one of the most popular member of Kumazemi. Julia uses her magic to strike down Alicia, but Alicia jumps out of the way. After a bit of intense fighting, Julia starts to lose ground. Julia frowns as she attacks, but Alicia happily pushes her back. As Julia falls, Kuga steps to her side. Alicia asks what his problem is, but Kuga just smiles at Julia. He heals her up with a smile on his face. Julia tries to talk to him, but Kuga tells her to leave. Julia gets surprised at his request. She tries to argue that she isn't done yet. Kuga knows she isn't lying. There is no way someone like her would accept defeat this easily, and neither her nor Alicia have shown their true strength yet. But this battle isn't about that. Kuga tells Julia that ever since they threw him out of Kumazemi, he has been facing hell. Alicia and him ended up as a duo, so if Julia messes with his duo, he won't let it slide that easily. Julia looks at Kuga with tears in her eyes, and she starts sobbing. She curses Sarah for taking this decision. She runs away from the scene as she keeps wailing. Kuga watches in horror as the chat makes fun of Julia and calls him a meanie for making a woman cry. Kuga wonders if he is the bad guy in this situation and wonders why Julia would call him Sarah. Alicia comes up to Kuga and thanks him for his help and for dealing with Julia. Kuga just looks at her with a puzzled expression. Alicia offers Kuga that they should get some minions for themselves. Absent-mindedly, Kuga agrees to her. In his head, he is lost thinking about the interaction with Julia. He wonders why she came all alone to face Alicia. Kuga isn't the type to overthink these matters, but he still sent Julia a text to see if she made it back safely. All she gave him in reply was a dry text. Kuga didn't think much about it and turned his focus on Alicia and her plans to become an SS-ranked boss. One of her objectives is to recruit some minions for her gang. The objective states that the minion needs to someone who is an S-ranked boss. This means that they need someone like Min to become Alicia's minion. Alicia denies the thinking outright because Min is her friend, and she would never want Min to turn into a minion. Kuga realizes that now they need to find someone other than Min to become a minion. The current S-ranked bosses include a basilisk, an archne, a werewolf, a minotaur who is out of the question, a zombie, a slime, a spirit fox, or a mecha soldier. There are a total of 4 S-ranked bosses. The evil spirit is Jockey, who is the original S-ranked boss. After she was defeated, the S-ranked bosses became 8 in number. Every time a boss was taken down, a new one would replace it. This way, the number of S-ranked bosses always remains 8. Taking down an S-ranked boss is the requirement for a part to be promoted to an S-ranked party. For Kuga, this was totally new. He asks Alicia how she will even get a minion to follow her. Alicia tells him that it depends on the minion's free will. She needs to make the minion submit to her mentally in order for them to follow her on their own. There is another way though. Kuga asks if it has something to do with drinking their blood. He is right, but Alicia doesn't like doing that because she is a wholesome vampire. Kuga comments on her having a moral compass because she doesn't look like the kind to have one. Alicia says that drinking blood isn't the problem, she just doesn't want to drink blood she doesn't like. Kuga is weirded out by this discovery because during all their battles he noticed that Alicia uses her tentacles to drink blood, but when it comes to his, she is more than happy to use her mouth. He wonders if she just finds his O-blood type tasty because insects are also attracted to O-blood types. But in reality, he was just confusing it with a random fact about mosquitoes. Kuga gets back to the topic and asks who she plans on targeting after this. Alicia has already decided who she will go after. Kuga and Alicia roam the floor 32 of the dungeon underground. The Japanese dungeon is divided into many layers. The upper layers reach the sky and then go deep down in the earth. The difficulty is the same for all layers. For example, the 15th upper layer and 15th lower level have the same difficulty. Because of this, the dungeon was named the Double-Headed Dungeon. Depending on the location of the floor, if it's a higher level, it will be more massive in area. Other than that, every 10 floors is a resting area where people usually camp as no monsters spawn on that area. Alicia's room was on the 43rd underground floor, but now that she is out and about, the hidden room is off limits and closed off. The ranked bosses are located on the upper and lower 45th levels. On top of the 49th floor, there is a special floor which has 3 sections: the upper central area, the lower central area. Each area has 6 ranked bosses each. However, if someone defeats an SS ranked boss, the position stays empty and no one fills it in. Kuga asks Alicia where they are headed to. Floor B32 is a typical floor which has massive walls that stretch on for hours. One of the commenters mentions kobolds and Alicia agrees. They will raid the kobold colony today. Alicia's plan is pretty simple because she wants to take all the kobolds out in one strike and make them her minions. Alicia points out a woman standing in the distance. Kuga asks what she will do with the human, if she plans on hunting her down. Alicia says that it depends on the human and how they will react. Without a good reason, she will not hunt down people who aren't hostile to monsters. Alicia wants to know if this person is even hostile because these days such invaders are a rare breed. Kuga feels like something is off about the girl because she's alone and she isn't streaming. These solo explorers aren't unheard of, but they are rare. Just how Julia came out of nowhere, it isn't advised to roam around alone. But the woman is alone and she seems distracted. It is likely that the solo woman doesn't know what to do. The woman disables her automatic revival feature. Alicia asks Kuga what the woman is trying to do. Kuga thinks that she is here to unalive herself. If the woman disabled her revival feature, that means she can revive herself through her skills. They need to approach this woman carefully and not lose someone as significant like her. The duo looks at the woman who is turning her own revive feature off. Only a reviver can disable their own revive. Before entering a dungeon, explorers need to pay an insurance fee to a revival company, where a reviver casts a spell on them. This lets the party proceed through the dungeon without any trouble. Whenever the explorers enter the dungeon, they need to pass a special checkpoint to make sure the revival spell works. The only person who can disable their own revival past the checkpoint is the reviver. Since the reviver job is rare, and most of them are recruited by insurance companies, it is very rare to see a reviver inside a dungeon. Alicia thanks her viewers for the explanation, and she gets excited to make the reviver her minion, since she has such a rare skill set. Alicia runs up to the woman and tells her to stop being hasty. This spooks the poor woman out. The woman panics and tries to run away. Alicia uses her tentacles and stops the woman. Kuga tries to stop Alicia from being reckless with the poor woman. Alicia admits that she wants to just hunt the woman down. Kuga compares her to a bear in his mind. He offers to end the stream because of how suggestive things are getting. After the stream's end, the woman tells them to let her leave because she doesn't want to continue on. She tells them to send her to heaven as soon as possible. Alicia asks why she is so desperate to meet the angels because she isn't interested. Alicia offers her some pleasure since she plans on ending it anyway. She then asks if the woman likes dogs. The reviver agrees, so Alicia happily decides to drag her with. The woman asks where they are going, so Alicia reveals that they are going to Dog Paradise. The reviver introduces herself as Kushina. Alicia greets her and asks if she knows who they are. Kushina admits that she has no idea who this duo is. She asks if they are famous streamers or something. Alicia brushes her concerns off because if she doesn't know who they are, she doesn't need to know. More like Alicia doesn't know if she's popular or not. Her chat tells her that she is the hottest topic at the moment. Alicia talks to her chat, but Kushina just stares at her cluelessly because she cannot hear or see the chat. Alicia tells Kushina that they have chosen the Dog's Paradise. Alicia guides them both to the different properties. They go through the first property where Alicia thinks that the atmosphere is a bit iffy. They go through the second and third property, but this isn't their destination. They stop at the fourth property, and Alicia asks Kuga what he thinks of this place. Kuga agrees that the place is calming, so Alicia agrees to stay here. Kushina realizes that they are in a kobold colony, and the guards are dogs. Kushina realizes what she meant with the Dog's Paradise. Alicia asks if Kushina is happy with the Dog's Paradise because she can cuddle as many dogs as she likes. At the entrance of the mansion there are kobold dogs. Depending on the colony, their kobold's appearance changes. The colony Alicia chose looks like a Japanese-style colony, where the dogs look like Shiba Inus, with fluffy cheeks. Kushina jumps with joy at the discovery of the dogs. She reaches to pet the guards, but the guards jump at her. Kuga steps in her place and gets bitten instead. Alicia warns Kushina to stay back because kobolds are fierce. Alicia starts by explaining that a kobold's weak spot is its throat, and she demonstrates that if someone strokes it there, the creature calms down. The next makes it clear the lesson worked, because kobolds are already gathered around her instead of attacking. Kuga and Kushina look on, and Alicia, clearly satisfied with herself, signals that it is time to move in. Kuga can only hesitate for a beat, because Alicia just turned monster control into what looks suspiciously like petting strategy with results. The mood shifts right after that. Kushina looks shaken, stammers through an apology, and Kuga, even while injured, tries to brush it off and calm her down. Kushina immediately rejects that, making it clear that this is not something she can simply let slide. Then while treating him, Kuga remarks that her healing is surprisingly good, and even says it feels warmer than his own. Kushina answers that this is actually her first time using healing, then adds that she usually just relies on auto-revival instead. Still flustered, Kushina asks whether they should get going, and whether that other person will really be okay. Kuga answers that he will be fine. At that exact moment, Alicia calls out from ahead, asking why the two of them still have not come over. When they look up, she chides them for being too slow, and then reveals the punchline to all of this effort, by proudly showing that she has already tamed all the kobolds. She is completely surrounded by them, while Kuga and Kushina stand there taking it in, and even the stream comments give up on suspense, long enough to note that the whole broadcast has basically turned into a healing session, and that the vampire works way too fast. After that, the group moves on beneath the trees. Kushina walks a little ahead. Kuga pauses the stream, and he asks whether he can ask her something. She agrees, and he carefully says that it may be a strange question before asking why she undid her revival. Kushina answers that she has heard healers are rare, and that they are supposed to have a secure future, but then says that this is exactly why. The line lands there and stops, like she has opened the door to something heavier, and is only just beginning to step through it. Kushina and Kuga walk side by side, and after a quiet stretch, Kushina finally speaks up, saying she gets why someone would choose that kind of life. She mentions that joining a group focused on revival insurance seems like a safe route. Kuga listens, silent, while she continues, pointing out that it comes with no overtime and no pressure, calling it a solid, stable job. It's the kind of pitch that sounds like it came straight out of a recruitment brochure, except her tone doesn't fully believe it. Then Kushina shifts, admitting that she had actually planned to join the revival insurance group yesterday. She pauses, reconsidering her own words, and corrects herself, saying that even just yesterday, she still thought that was the path she would take. Her gaze lowers, and she adds that she even went as far as taking a break today, saying she would probably return to it tomorrow. The way she says it makes it clear she's not as convinced anymore, like she's trying to convince herself, and failing mid-sentence. Kuga responds simply, saying he understands. Kushina nods, acknowledging that it is probably the safer choice, especially since she can just keep coming back to life anyway, but then she admits the real problem. It's exhausting. Living like that, repeating it over and over, doesn't feel like living at all. It just feels like going through motions on loop, like respawning in a game but never actually progressing. She quickly tries to downplay it, saying she might just be overthinking things. Then she admits she was in a really bad mood earlier. She adds that maybe she just got carried away, or maybe she was chasing some kind of excitement without realizing it. Even Kuga, she notes, seemed to be having fun, and she wanted to understand that feeling. Kuga quietly agrees, telling her he sees what she means. The explanation continues in a more reflective tone, as Kushina describes how things changed, how the pace picked up, how revival magic and everything around it started turning what should have been a life or death experience into something almost mechanical. It became routine, something repeatable, something that stripped away the weight of it all. And while that might sound convenient, it also made everything feel hollow. She admits that maybe she just couldn't go along with that kind of life, that kind of repetition and that lack of tension. It didn't sit right with her. And even though she acknowledges that the path itself isn't wrong, that it might even be a good one for others, she quietly concludes that it's just not for her. Kuga thinks to himself that Kushina would probably get in more trouble for trying to die than for anything else, but he keeps that thought to himself. Alicia quietly says she understands. Kushina then says she cannot believe there are people out there who would do something that reckless. After a small pause, Kuga agrees that there really are, and adds that Alicia really is something else. Alicia immediately cuts in and says that yes, she is talking about Kuga. Kushina goes quiet, gulps, and after a beat admits that maybe she should try breaking out of her shell a little too. Alicia then comes right back to the same point and asks again why Kushina will not become her minion. Kushina rejects that instantly and says there is no way she can do it because her mother would unalive her. After that, it is made clear that Alicia succeeded in turning the kobolds into her minions, but she could not do the same with Kushina. Once the kobolds on the dungeon's third underground floor are dealt with, Alicia and Kuga head back to Monster Town. It is explained that they can leave Monster Town from anywhere, but they always re-enter from the same place, which means they have to walk back every single time. Along the way, Kuga offers to pay for Alicia's purchase. Alicia says it is fine, and that it really is not a big deal. Kuga corrects her and says that thanks to their streams, he has been earning a decent amount from incentives. Alicia asks what an incentive is. Kuga explains that it is basically money. He adds that the more viewers they have, the more money they make, and then tells her honestly that if it were not for her, he would not have anywhere near as many viewers as he does now. After that, he asks her to let him cover it, and Alicia agrees. It is then explained that those incentives are usually paid out as digital currency. Kuga asks Alicia whether she can even use that kind of money. Alicia answers that she cannot withdraw it. The explanation follows that if they ever ran out of cash, they would have to go to a human town to withdraw some. Kuga then asks how the little daily money Alicia mentioned before actually works, adding that he is just curious. Alicia answers by showing him a bill and saying that it works like that. Kuga reacts, and Alicia explains that every day 5 of those simply show up in her pocket. Kuga realizes that means 5,000 yen a day, and thinks that they will need to head to a human town at some point. Just then, a merchant politely calls out to Kuga. Kuga turns, thanks him, and says he understands. The merchant then tells him that he can use it there. Kuga and Alicia both freeze at that. Alicia watches Kuga use the payment service with a little click, and immediately marvels that he can do something like that at all, calling it practically magic. Kuga can only stare back in disbelief, and as they keep walking through town, Alicia says she needs to check the survival manual later. Kuga responds that something like that really does exist. Alicia then apologizes and explains that she burns through energy fast, so she needs to eat more, especially iron, because her body needs it. Kuga gives her a hesitant answer and admits he does not really get it, while Alicia repeats the word iron to herself like she is still sorting it out. A full spread of food follows, and when Kuga ends up carrying a huge tray, Alicia stares at it and asks whether he eats that much too. It is a fair question, because that plate looks less like lunch and more like a side quest. After that, Alicia brings up the ring. She shows it to Kuga, and when he asks what she was talking about with the kobolds, she explains that she gave them that ring so they can call her if they ever need help. Kuga asks whether that means the kobolds can summon her anytime they want, and Alicia tells him that is basically how it works. He falls quiet and starts thinking that, at this rate, Alicia looks less like their ruler and more like the one being claimed by them instead. Alicia catches the look on his face immediately, calls his name, and asks whether he is seriously thinking she got won over by their fluffiness, and willingly became their minion. Then, without missing a beat, she admits that she understands the temptation because fluffiness really is supreme. Kuga jolts, starts to object, and then cuts himself off when Alicia holds up the ring again, and makes it clear that that is not the only reason. Alicia then activates the ring and says it can summon them too. She casually admits she is just testing whether the summoning works, and almost at once a kobold appears in front of them with a bark. Kuga notes that they cannot talk, but it looks like they understand what Alicia is saying. Alicia hesitates over the kobold's name. Someone identifies him as the boss of that colony, and Alicia decides that his name seems to be Kobold. Kuga goes silent at that, and Alicia promptly tells the kobold that the test is over and he can go back now. Kuga, looking at her, asks whether she really just made that up on the spot. The kobold barks again. Alicia sends him off with a casual farewell, and the whole exchange lands with the exact energy of a ruler naming a subject in real time and hoping nobody checks the paperwork. Kuga then admits that being able to summon them anytime is definitely useful. Alicia agrees, but adds one limit right away. There is a cooldown before she can do it again. Kuga says he sees, and points out that this means she cannot just spam it endlessly. Alicia confirms that, then adds that the kobolds have another important role to play. Kuga watches her smile, clearly pleased with herself, while the thought lingers that he would only find out what that other role was later. At Alicia's temporary home, Alicia calls Kuga over with an eager little hey, and Kuga asks what she wants. She brings up streaming and asks whether other people do it too, and Kuga tells her that yes, of course they do. Alicia takes that in, eyes sparkling, and admits that lately she has gotten curious about other people's streams. Then she asks if they can watch them. Kuga pauses, pieces together what she means, and finally says they can. Alicia immediately lights up and blurts out that she wants to watch. And once Kuga gives in and reaches for the screen, she peers over it with a tiny satisfied sound like someone who just found out the dungeon has cable. A live broadcast pops up on the Kumazemi channel, and Alicia notices right away that someone is streaming at that exact moment. She reacts with a sharp little shout while Kuga just goes quiet. On the screen, Saintess Julia stares ahead and recognizes that guy. Alicia freezes, looks at Kuga and asks if that is the party that kicked him out. Kuga confirms that it is, then drops the real change. For the first time since that day, Kuga watches a Kumazemi stream, and the stream immediately shows why that matters. Because the party now has a new member, a priest getting thrown around badly enough to make Kuga stare at the screen and wonder what in the world he is even looking at. Alicia keeps watching and asks Kuga if those really are his former teammates, then trails off as something about them starts bothering her. Kuga stares at the screen with a sense of doubt, and quietly confirms that yes they are. Alicia says that even so, they seem completely lifeless, and it is clear she is absolutely right. On the live feed, the party stands facing two hooded skeletons. A sudden motion cuts through the frame. One of the skeletons jerks into action, and the whole battlefield tightens at once. Sword Saint Sarah scoffs as the stream tags him by name, then the clash explodes around her. One skeleton crashes into the melee. Sarah turns toward the disturbance. The rear of the formation reacts, and another attack tears across the screen hard enough to make the whole fight feel like it is one bad decision away from becoming content in the worst possible way. Sarah's irritation hangs in the air as the monsters are identified as A-rank twin skeletons. Saintess Julia says she will take the front as usual and calls for Sion, but Priest Sion shuts that down immediately and says that is a bad move. He explains that in any party, the last person they should ever lose is the specialized healer, and that is the most fundamental rule. Even then, Sion sticks to the standard strategy and insists that they protect the healer, meaning him. The fight proves his point almost instantly when someone is struck and cries out in pain. Sakishian sees it, mutters that this is not good, and casts heal. Then the stream chat does exactly what stream chat does. It starts glazing him on sight, praising Sakishian, praising his restoration speed even from a distance, and pointing out that a disciple of the Caesar's rank party Lucian was always going to be absurd. Julia scoffs while a viewer watching the stream mutters that the whole fight feels like it is starting to drag. Then the Holy Knight emerges, and Sarah launches herself forward in a flash, crashing into one of the twin skeletons hard enough to send the clash skidding across the battlefield. A skeleton twists under the blow. Priest Sion grimaces and insists that he is fine, twice, and when an unseen voice calls Julia's name, she answers with nothing but another irritated click of the tongue. Julia says she understands, and Mikari picks that up by saying they should stay calm. Sion immediately asks Mikari to refresh the enchantment before it wears off, and after Julia calls her name, Mikari scoffs and says fine, but she wants the enchantment reapplied to Sarah at the front first. Sion turns on that idea at once, asks what she is thinking, and says it is dumb. The stream commentary hypes him up as always composed and even frames this as proof that a party running on vibes alone is bound to struggle. Sion leans into that authority and tells everyone to stick to the strategy, saying the healer has to be protected first, meaning him. Then he pivots and tells the viewers not to belittle his party members, because he does appreciate the support. When he addresses Julia and Mikari directly, they accept it and say it is fine, and that as long as they keep growing little by little, they will be okay. The chat immediately turns into a tiny digital street fight, with some people calling Sion out for insulting the girls, others defending him as just guiding them, one person dismissing them as newbies, another roasting the whole seniority act, and someone else saying they should be grateful he joined the party at all. Sarah clicks his tongue again while Mikari says she has got it, and Alicia keeps staring at the screen before quietly pointing out that the Saintess was way stronger when she fought her. Then, out of nowhere, Alicia asks Kuga if they can leave comments on the stream. Kuga hesitates. Alicia nudges him again, and he finally admits that they probably can. That is all she needs to hear. She says she wants to cheer them on too. Kuga blinks, asks why. then catches up and realizes she is serious. When Alicia asks how to comment, Kuga, at the absolute worst possible moment, forgets one crucial detail and explains that she can either send a voice message or type something and have it read aloud. Then he decides typing it out will work, and Alicia nods with a bright little got it. The comment box fills. A note right beside it makes it clear that the sender's name will be visible, and the message goes through under Kuga's account in giant unmistakable letters. Kuga, go for it. Alicia looks pleased. Kuga looks like his brain just blue screened in public. He mutters, "Aw, crap," then realizes the full disaster and admits that he just outed himself. Because yes, my guy really did post from his main. On the other side of the stream, the party freezes and stares at the comment in open shock, the kind of silence that lands harder than any sword swing. Julia calls out to Makari, and Makari answers, but the moment Kuga's name starts blowing up in the chat, her composure starts peeling apart in real time. An apology reaches Makari while the comments keep stacking one on top of another, shouting that Kuga is in the chat, asking if it is really Kuga-san, asking who Kuga even is, then realizing he is the guy who got kicked out, and finally branding him the one streaming with monsters like some certified public oddball. Makari lowers her eyes and admits that she just cannot do it, and that tiny crack is all the chaos needs. Sira launches forward in a burst, and the fight instantly turns savage. Makari and Julia jolt in shock as he barrels in, screams for them not to mess with him, and starts smashing into the twin skeletons with pure all-gas no-brakes energy. He curses those damn Bone Brothers, keeps pressing the attack, and Alicia, watching from the other side, gets so fired up over the skeletons that her cheering turns into its own event. Somehow, between Alicia's enthusiastic support and Sira throwing subtlety straight into the nearest wall, Kumazemi manages to bring the skeletons down. Even then, this struggle is already way beyond anything Kugo expected, and that mess pulls everything back to where it started. In high school, 3rd year, new term, seats are assigned mechanically by alphabetical order, and Kuga ends up near the back, in the 2nd row from the right. The student seated to his left is Sarah. Kuga already knows who he is. Even back then, Sarah stood out. His blonde hair was technically against school rules, but he was the kind of striking figure who drew eyes the second he walked into a room, and with his charm, his excellent grades, and his athletic ability, he got the kind of verbal warning treatment that only applies when the rules decide they have a favorite. So now Kuga, who sees himself as the quiet little mob character of the school, sits there with Sarah right beside him and cannot help feeling nervous. Suri turns to him, asks if he is Kuga, and greets him with a bright, easy smile. Kuga stumbles through an awkward reply, and Suri immediately starts treating him like they have already been friends for a while. He calls Kuga over to grab something from the store, and Kuga can only give him a hesitant okay. Bit by bit, just being around that bright, infectious energy starts changing Kuga's outlook. Suri keeps it going. He asks Kuga to walk home with him, and when Kuga agrees too quietly, Sarah complains that it is boring by himself. When Kuga asks why he cannot just go alone, Sarah casually tells him to come to the bathroom with him too, because apparently this man never met a boundary he could not vault over. Sarah has plenty of friends, but even so, he spends most of his time with Kuga, and that is where their story really starts to lock in. A year passed in a blink, and before long Kuga and Sarah had drifted onto separate paths. Then, just before graduation, Kuga suddenly received an invite from Sarah into a group chat, even though he had already assumed their connection had basically ended. For Kuga, Sarah had been the only person he had ever really talked to, so getting pulled into a chat full of around 10 standout classmates felt like being dropped into the honors lane with no map. He felt completely out of place, but the others were surprisingly kind and welcoming, greeting him warmly one after another. Among them were Julia and Makari. Julia was known as one of the class beauties, so seeing her there was a little surprising, especially because she usually gave off a distant, hard-to-approach vibe, and it seems she and Makari were especially close to everyone else. That group was probably just one of many circles they belonged to, but to Kuga, it felt special. Then one day Sarah brought up the idea of trying dungeon streaming, and maybe even becoming famous. Kuga hesitated, but when Sarah pulled him in directly, he agreed because he wanted to support him. After that, Makari joined because she did not want Julia to be the only girl, and once Kuga said yes, Julia unexpectedly followed too. Once they actually started doing dungeon runs, Kuga realized he was genuinely having fun. It did not feel like a chore, and he could not really explain why. On top of that, he got to see sides of Julia and Makari he had never known before. Then Sarah casually suggested that they should pick an actual channel name. Kuga felt that was very like him, and Makari immediately brightened and leaned into the idea with her usual energy. Julia admitted the idea might sound a little cliché, but suggested taking one character from each of their names. Kuga liked that right away, and the four of them began sounding out parts of their names, trying to mash them into something that worked. When they asked Kuga if he had any ideas, he first admitted nothing came to mind, then said the closest thing he could think of was Kumazemi. Sarah liked it immediately, pointed out that Julia's part would need to be bent a little, and voiced differently, and the group turned to Julia for the final call. Julia accepted it because it was Kuga's idea. And just like that, the channel name was chosen almost on pure impulse. From there, the group kept streaming. Julia's cool beauty mixed with her unexpectedly softer side won people over. Makari brought charm and flirtatious appeal, and as Sarah kept going, his confidence and intensity started standing out more and more. Their viewer count rose slowly but steadily, and before long the Kumazemi channel reached 1,000 subscribers. What starts as a half-joke about becoming famous streamers slowly turns into a real tangible goal, and that is exactly why Kuga cannot bear to let the dream end. He works behind the scenes until that dream becomes his purpose. He trains to improve his basic physical ability, grinds through the latest combat theory like the exam decides whether he gets to stay alive, and throws himself into weapon training too. For the first time in his life, he commits fully to something. The grind nearly overwhelms him, sweat runs down, his body strains, but he keeps going, because the thing driving him is simple. He wants to make sure no one on the team ever has to retire. That purpose takes center stage during Kumazemi's first B-rank monster fight, a brutal battle against an orc. After a long struggle, they finally corner it, but the monster is not interested in going out with dignity. In one last act of desperation, it hurls its axe with full force. Sarah, who has been fighting at close range, misjudges the distance because of the orc's sudden move, and in that one instant, Kuga, who is still a warrior at the time, throws himself in front of Sarah to shield him. No pause, no debate, no tactical group chat, just pure, my body will file the complaint later energy. The wound is so deep that everyone honestly thinks Kuga is finished. The party has no healer, and that exposes the fatal flaw inside Kumazemi. Even then, no one ever brings up the idea of changing members. Deep down, they all know none of them has the heart for that, and that unspoken bond is exactly what leads them into disaster at the worst possible moment. Then, while Kuga lies collapsed, something happens. His jobstone begins to glow, the universe drops a last-second patch note, and Kuga awakens with a new job, hero. He survives, and the very first thing he does is heal himself. Back in the city, Kuga drifts along with his thoughts somewhere else entirely, until Alicia calls out to him in that bright sing-song way of hers, and asks what is going on. She points out that he looks seriously worried about something. Kuga tries to wave it off as nothing, but Alicia clearly does not buy the store-brand version of that excuse, and tells him to get himself together. He gives her a weak acknowledgement, and the stream comments immediately jump in to encourage him, telling him he can do this and trying to cheer him up by name, which only makes it clearer that yesterday's accidental message is still haunting him like a post that should have stayed in drafts. Alicia suddenly slows down, looks ahead, and realizes the figure in front of them might be someone familiar. The comments catch up a split second later and light up over Mino, already treating the encounter like some surprise collab event. Alicia dashes straight toward her with cheerful energy, and Mino startles so violently she practically turns into a jump scare reaction image. Alicia points out how jumpy she is and asks what is wrong. Mino stammers through her panic, recognizes Alicia, and awkwardly tries to play it off as nothing. Alicia studies her for a beat, decides that story is not surviving inspection, and tells her she is obviously hiding something because her face is giving her away for free. Mino, sweating hard under the pressure, insists that she is hiding absolutely nothing. The comments, being the comments, instantly dogpile with the observation that it is painfully obvious, while Kuga quietly agrees that she is definitely concealing something. Alicia moves closer and tells Mino not to shut them out. She reminds her that they are friends, and says she can tell them. That finally gets through. Mino hesitates, gives a miserable little surrender, admits Alicia is right, and agrees to talk. She starts revealing the truth, pauses just long enough for the chat to lean in like a swarm of nosy goblins, and then confesses that she thinks she is being stalked right now. The comments react at once with a messy mix of sympathy, alarm, and zero volume control, including the not at all helpful admission that everyone definitely heard that. That one confession flips the mood instantly. The chat fumes that targeting someone so delicate is unforgivable, and Mino visibly bristles with the same anger. Then a comment shoves Kuga straight into the problem by telling him to go catch the stalker, and Alicia whips around so fast she may as well have heard a record scratch. She demands to know what was just said, takes in enough to understand, and then turns back to Mino with complete certainty. She tells her not to worry, and declares that they will drive the stalker off themselves. Mino can barely process that promise, and asks if they really mean it. Alicia answers with total confidence that they do. While Kuga smiles beside her, Kuga looks at Alicia and privately reaches the very dangerous conclusion that with an axe that big, this whole problem might be solved a lot faster the medieval way. At the same time, the mood around Mino turns openly protective, with the talk circling around how pitiful she is, how cowardly the stalker must be, and how unforgivable the whole thing feels, until the group finally reaches Mino's house. Her home turns out to resemble Alicia's temporary place, just scaled up like someone hit copy-paste and then dragged the corner outward 3 times. Mino rushes in and apologizes for running out so fast, then realizes with horror that she even forgot to water her plants. She explains that she has been raising them carefully, and that she has been worried sick about them. Alicia immediately notices that the vegetables would start wilting if they missed even a single day of water, and that wholesome little detail hits the viewers like a critical strike. The comments start melting all over themselves, wondering who in the world thought turning Mino into an S-rank boss was a good idea, admitting there is no way they could ever bring themselves to fight someone this sweet, and flatly declaring that if anyone ever tries to hunt her, they are backing her with zero follow-up questions. Mino looks overwhelmed, and Alicia smugly notes that everyone is finally starting to understand. Then the air changes. A shadowy presence with glaring eyes slips into view, huffs and instantly makes Alicia, Kuga, and Mino snap toward the sound. Mino spots movement and asks if that is the one. Alicia tries to read the presence and immediately stiffens because whatever is out there feels stronger than anything they have sensed before. Even with that, she pulls herself together fast, tells Kuga they should check outside the garden first, and urges Mino to stay close because being with them is still safer than being alone. Mino agrees and the trio moves out, only to stop when the figure finally appears. The thing looming in front of them is enormous, and the reaction is instant: shock, panic, and one collective "oh no" from every direction at once. The viewers recognize it first and identify the intruder as the S-rank boss Werewolf, even pointing out that Werewolf was only added recently after replacing Salamander. As the viewers rattle off the current S-rank boss lineup and single him out, Mino demands to know what he wants with her, while Alicia squares up and calls the werewolf out directly. Instead of attacking, the werewolf calmly explains that he was only watching over Minotaur to make sure nobody hurt her. That answer lands hard enough to stop Mino cold. She looks up at him confused and doubtful, and asks if he really means that. He confirms that he does, then follows it with the much less comforting claim that he alone is worthy of protecting Minotaur, which is exactly the kind of sentence that does not make a stalking situation sound better, no matter how calmly it is delivered. Alicia wastes no time stepping in and calling out to the werewolf, then immediately tears into him by pointing out that Mino does not even know him and asking what is wrong with him. The werewolf, somehow still moving like he is the romantic lead in a story nobody else agreed to join, brushes that off and convinces himself. Mino is only acting shy, even going as far as treating her discomfort like it is adorable. The stream reacts exactly how it should, with viewers realizing in real time that stalkers apparently exist in the monster world too, that this guy is the real deal, and that Mino needs to run immediately. Kuga and Alicia both freeze at the sheer audacity, and the werewolf presses on by asking why Mino would even want to be with humans in the first place. That is where Mino finally snaps. She lunges in and tells him to stop badmouthing her friends. The werewolf responds by warning that mixing with humans would disgrace her title as an S-rank and strip away her pure beauty, which is a spectacularly creepy way to tell everyone he has never once heard himself out loud. Alicia and Kuga stare as Mino stands her ground, and the werewolf softens his tone only enough to make it worse, telling her everything is fine and insisting she is too gentle, that she must have been brainwashed, and that she is the one being wronged here. Mino fires back that none of that is true. The werewolf then spirals straight into a one-sided confession, explaining that he fell for her at first sight, that she seemed pure and radiant, and that it all began when they met at a flower shop. At that point, the whole scene turns into a hostage situation by oversharing, and even the commentary starts treating it like a sudden personal life story nobody asked to unlock. After forcing everyone to sit through his deluxe edition stalker monologue for a while, the werewolf finally gives up some ground and says he will back off for today, though only because Mino has support behind her, and he makes it clear he intends to see her again. Mino shuts that down immediately by telling him that the only one backing off is him, creep included, and the viewers stamp that response with the kind of instant approval usually reserved for a perfect ratio. A beat later, the werewolf leaps away and disappears, leaving the group staring after him in silence. Then Alicia turns to Kuga, calls his name, and announces that she has made up her mind. Kuga, already tired in advance, can only brace himself while Alicia reveals her new plan. She intends to make the werewolf her minion. Kuga's face says everything, because he clearly does not want any part of that idea, but the damage is done. The quest line has updated, and nobody got to decline it. On the 45th underground floor, Alicia stares up at a massive manor under the moon and realizes they have reached the werewolf's castle. She heads straight for it, while Kuga follows, already looking like his survival instincts are filing complaints in advance. As they move through the corridor, the stream comments marvel at how much go-getter energy the vampire lady has, point out that the werewolf will never expect an ambush on a day like this, and note that this is a sudden first attempt at challenging an S-rank boss. Even Kuga, who has been keeping up so far, cannot hide that he is getting nervous and starts wondering whether they are really strong enough for this. Alicia reaches the entrance, finds no guards in sight, and decides they should head inside. Kuga trails behind her, sweating through the whole plan, and the second they step in, two beastly guards finally notice the intrusion and react in shock. Alicia keeps walking anyway, enters the grand hall like she already owns the title deed, and when the guards demand to know who she is, she calmly identifies herself as a vampire. Then, with all the confidence of someone who has never once considered indoor volume, she declares that she came to make the boss of the castle, their werewolf, her minion. That lands exactly as hard as it should. The guards recoil, one blurts out confused disbelief, and another immediately calls for the boss to be protected. because this conversation went from awkward to career-threatening in one sentence. Alicia studies the enemy force in front of her, gives a quiet hum, and gauges the level of strength she is dealing with. The tension spikes fast. The guards move, a harsh cry rips through the hall, and more hostile bodies crowd the space until Alicia coolly notes that they still have decent numbers. With that, she decides on her answer, narrows her eyes and raises a hand. Something erupts across the floor in a burst of magic and motion, enough for a viewer to blurt out confused disbelief while another starts wondering what is about to happen. Then the hall fills with barking, the sound of little wano echoes everywhere, and the whole scene cuts right there with maximum gremlin energy. Like the manga itself knew exactly when to hit the cliffhanger button. The hall suddenly fills with a whole swarm of tiny dog-like fighters, and the stream comments instantly lose all composure, screaming that the Shiba squad has arrived, calling them adorable, and asking what on earth they are looking at. One of the enemy beastmen stares at the scene and wonders if this is some kind of summoning. Alicia answers that it is, then turns to the fluffy leader in front of her, tells him she will support him, calls him Wano, and orders him to take the enemies down. She stretches out her hand, a buff settles over him, and the little squad starts gathering with that "we ride at dawn" energy packed into bodies the size of plush toys. Kuga watches the power-up land and realizes that this is the effect of Alicia's buff. The boosted fighter accepts the support like it is the greatest honor of his life, and that is when Kuga gets hit with the real jump scare. The dogman speaks, Kuga freezes, completely breaks, and internally spirals over the fact that the guy talked, over the fact that none of this makes sense anymore, and over the fact that the voice is absurdly attractive for a fluffy battlefield mascot. Alicia meanwhile stays focused, tells him she is counting on him, and the dogman formally declares that his name is now Wano. After that, he politely raises one small issue to his lord. Alicia catches on, awkwardly realizes her mistake, apologizes, and he immediately turns from respectful retainer into tiny general, calling on his boys to move out and repay their master with glory. The Shiba squad answers with a full-throated chorus of barking war cries, and the comments double down, yelling in support, calling the moment epic, and pointing out that these are definitely not average Shibas. Alicia decides to leave the fight at the entrance to Wano and the others, then tells Kuga they are heading deeper inside. Kuga agrees, and the two of them rush ahead while the little squad swarms the hall behind them like a fluffy raid party that absolutely did not come to negotiate. They sprint through the castle, charge up the stairs, and push forward until Alicia spots a figure waiting ahead on a seat in the distance. Alicia stops, faces him, and greets the werewolf like this is less an infiltration and more a rematch appointment. She fully intends to keep. The werewolf answers with a low laugh and coolly admits that he had not expected her to come walking in on her own. The werewolf stares Alicia down and makes it clear that now that she has come here trying to take Minotaur from him, he finally intends to get rid of her. Alicia immediately latches onto that possessive little "my Minotaur" routine and pushes back on it, making it plain that Mino is not his in any sense. Then his attention shifts past her, and he notices there is someone else there. When he looks closer, he realizes the girl beside Kuga is a wanderer. Alicia follows his gaze, spots the girl too, and demands to know who she is and what exactly this whole situation is supposed to be. He brushes it off as some small pastime, and that answer lands exactly like a man digging his own grave with confident body language. Alicia snaps at him for treating it like a hobby and accuses him of planning to lock this girl up the same way he tried to keep Mino. The werewolf refuses to admit the girl matters to him, but Alicia is already done entertaining the nonsense. She cuts him off, tells Kuga to skip the details, and orders him to take the girl and get her out of there. Kuga checks if Alicia is sure, and Alicia leaves no room for debate, making it clear that she will handle the werewolf herself. Kuga accepts it, gathers the girl up, and says he will come back once he has taken her somewhere safe. Alicia fires back that she could easily say the same to the werewolf, then decides he clearly needs to be taught a lesson, which, fair enough, is about the calmest possible way to announce violence. Kuga dashes off with the girl, and the group races through the castle corridors. Once they get some distance, Kuga checks on the girl and confirms she can at least speak properly. While Alicia notes that she seems young, Kuga looks at her torn clothes, wonders if this is the werewolf's preferred type, and pities her on the spot. Alicia then guides her onward, and the girl quietly agrees and follows. That brief rescue window closes fast. The werewolf clicks his tongue and surges forward. Alicia turns to meet him, and the whole thing finally becomes what the stream has been waiting for, a straight-up monster against monster clash. The viewers explode with support for Alicia, thrilled that they are getting to watch a real boss-on-boss fight unfold live, and one comment sums it up with the exact kind of terminally online accuracy the moment deserves, by framing it as villain versus villain. Another viewer just admits the whole thing is surprisingly hype, and honestly, the audience is not wrong. The castle turns into an arena, the side quest mutates into a boss battle, and everybody watching gets dragged into a front row seat they absolutely were not prepared for. The werewolf comes in fast, claws flashing, and Alicia meets him head-on. The exchange turns vicious in an instant, with slashes, impacts, and close-range feints piling up until she gets inside his guard, seizes control of the clash, and drives him down hard enough to smash the floor beneath them. The crash tears through the castle, The werewolf is left groaning on the lower level, and even the viewers start treating what they are seeing like proof of an old rumor that this vampire might actually be stronger than most S-class bosses. As the dust settles, the stream erupts over Alicia, calling her insane, wondering if she is really overpowering an S-class boss, and hyping her up like their own vampire queen. Alicia barely reacts to the praise. She fixes her eyes on the werewolf, coolly lets him know that he seems kind of weak, and the insult lands so clean it practically needs a replay. The werewolf can only click his tongue, while the chat keeps spiraling over how dominant she looks, even against an S-class opponent. Then Alicia presses harder and questions whether he is even a real S-class boss at all. That is when he laughs and drops the twist with full shameless confidence. He never actually claimed to be one, so yes, the man built his whole aura pack on vibes and misdirection. Alicia stiffens at that answer, but the werewolf is already moving on. He points out that the human she brought with her is taking an awfully long time to return, and that one line is enough to make the danger snap back into focus. The viewers catch on immediately, and the scene cuts to Kuga with the rescued girl. She suddenly addresses him with a calmness that was nowhere in sight before, and asks whether he knows the game called Werewolf. Kuga admits that he has heard of it, even if he has never actually played it, and while he is still wondering why she sounds so composed now, she starts laying out the rules as she understands them. In that game, she explains, a werewolf lies, pretends to be human, and attacks the villagers at night. Kuga listens, admits he did not know all the rules, and walks straight into the setup without realizing the plot is already loading the jump scare. The girl calls for his attention again and tells him to listen carefully. Then, smiling softly as if she is revealing something harmless instead of detonating the whole situation, she tells him that she is the werewolf. Kuga stops and can do nothing but stare, because the rescue mission just folded back into the boss problem like the story hit a hidden second phase and forgot to warn the player. Alicia searches the castle for Kuga, wondering where he went after leaving the fake werewolf, battered badly enough to stay down for a while. Then she hears noise ahead, rushes toward it, and finds Kuga with the rescued girl. The girl notices Alicia and reacts with visible irritation. Alicia closes the distance looking worn out, and a relieved voice blurts out that he is still alive, while the girl can only gasp. Alicia locks onto Kuga immediately and calls out to him again. Kuga notices Alicia's expression and asks what is going on with her face, and Alicia fires back a warning that the girl with him is the real werewolf. Kuga, very much in the posture of a man who is tired of being late to his own disasters, says he already knows because she confessed earlier. Alicia freezes at that. The girl stands there quietly, and the stream comments catch up all at once. Some viewers marvel that the girl really is the werewolf. Some suddenly decide she looks cute now that the reveal is out. Then the girl calmly explains that Kuga told her he wanted her among his own kind. Kuga denies that on the spot and insists he has corrected that misunderstanding over and over, while Alicia tries to figure out whether this whole thing somehow started with her. The girl says that either way, she agreed. Alicia blanks out for a beat. The comments start wondering whether Kuga was born under a star that makes monster girls fall for him on contact, and Alicia completely short-circuits at the implication. The chat escalates from teasing to mock execution orders for traitor Kuga, with one viewer even volunteering to handle it, and Kuga is left standing there like he just got put on trial by a jury made entirely of gremlins. When Alicia demands to know why the girl feels this way, the answer comes back simply. It is because Kuga was kind to her. The girl explains that when Kuga rescued her, he kept checking whether she was okay, praising her for doing well, and trying to reassure her so she would not be afraid. To her, that was the first time in her life anyone had ever spoken to her that kindly. That lands harder than any boss attack. The comments instantly explode, with one viewer telling Kuga to move aside so they can take his place, others asking whether that really was all it took, and another insisting he could have said the same thing. Meanwhile, Alicia starts trembling, makes a tiny strangled sound, and turns back toward Kuga to demand exactly what he said, like the man accidentally discovered that basic decency is a broken build and never told the rest of the server. Alicia awkwardly admits that Kuga is right, and that she has never really dealt with this kind of situation before. That lands on Gray like a direct hit, because Gray says no one has ever spoken to her that way before. Alicia can only concede that it is true, while the stream instantly starts spiraling, noticing how unusually gentle the vampire is acting and predicting that Gray may not survive this emotional crit. Alicia briefly wonders whether she should pretend to be a little weaker too, then immediately lashes out at the idea and tries to shut the whole thing down, even as one viewer dramatically declares they are checking out. Alicia tries to clean it up, but only manages to awkwardly insist that this is not what she meant. Then the werewolf calls out to Gray and presses her by asking whether she is still not satisfied. Gray turns toward him and calls him her big brother, which makes Alicia freeze and piece together that the two of them are siblings. The comments catch up a second later, point out that they really do look alike, and identify Gray as the werewolf girl's name. Once that lands, the werewolf demands to know what exactly is going on. Gray hesitates, addresses him again as her big brother, steps forward, and reveals that she has found her destined one. Before anybody can stop her, Gray clings to Kuga and announces that she is going to become Kuga's minion, Alicia and the werewolf both glitch at once, and the werewolf stares at her like the head injury from earlier may have done extra damage on the way out. He tries to stop her, then flatly asks whether she has lost her mind. Gree only holds on tighter and explains that Kuga is kind. Then she goes all in and says it was love at first sight, which is the kind of escalation that turns one misunderstanding into an entire season's worth of discourse in under 10 seconds. The werewolf dismisses that as nonsense and argues that love at first sight is a recipe for disaster, basically warning that for all she knows, Kuga could secretly be awful. Kuga fires back that the werewolf has no room to talk, then points out that this still looks like a one-sided crush because Great has not even asked how he feels. The stream dogpiles immediately, laughing that the siblings really do have matching stalker energy, and noting that Kuga keeps attracting the wildest women like it is some cursed passive skill. Grey does not care whether it is one-sided, tells her big brother that his opinion does not matter, and asks whether she can already consider herself Kuga's minion. Alicia pauses at that, thinks it over, and the whole scene goes quiet in the exact way that means a terrible idea is buffering in real time. Grey then turns back to Kuga and asks that once they are officially contracted, he summon her anytime and anywhere, and if possible at least twice a day. Kuga, who has somehow wandered into monster relationship paperwork without signing up for it, can only fumble out a weak acceptance while Gree shyly waits. Alicia flips through her notes on how to become an S-class boss, stares at the checklist, and then decides that if Gree becomes her minion's minion, that still basically makes Gree her minion too. Kuga is left mildly horrified and quietly wondering whether the rules are really supposed to be this loose, because the whole hierarchy has now turned into pure girl math with fangs. At Alicia's temporary home, a fresh notification from Kumazemi pops up, and Alicia immediately decides she wants to watch. Kuga has the same question any sane person would have after everything that happened before. What is his old party doing now, and how is this going to go wrong today? So the two of them tune in again, and the stream opens on the party moving through a rocky area, while Mikari explains that this time the goal is mostly collecting materials to upgrade her staff, not diving into heavy combat. She also admits they had coordination problems on the last stream, which is a very calm way to say the previous run had some cracks in the drywall. The stream keeps rolling, and the party presents itself like it has cleaned things up. Cyan explains that they have been working on syncing up as a team and training properly under his lead, then assures the audience that the others are doing well enough now and that everyone can just sit back and enjoy. Mikari listens and clearly wants to believe it, thinking that Cyan is as amazing and reassuring as ever, but even then she still cannot shake the feeling that something is off. The viewers pile in with their own takes, saying the old failure was a shame, that the others were good but Cyan had simply been far ahead of them in skill, and that this new group still makes them uneasy. Cyan takes that in, admits that in his old party he had been the only one to survive a boss fight, and that it was never the ending he wanted, then thanks the viewers for the support while telling them not to insult his team. He makes it clear that this party is the best one he could ask for, and that he is fully committed to helping them reach Sailor rank, and the chat instantly rewards him with full Saint protagonist propaganda. The support keeps coming, with viewers insisting that if anyone can pull it off, Cyan can, and promising to back him no matter what. Then the whole mood snaps. A sharp sound cuts through the stream. One of the girls notices something strange, and in the next instant a mass of webbing erupts around Cyan. Someone stares at it and recognizes it as spider silk, while Cyan himself can only grunt in shock as the trap tightens around him. The chat goes from cheering squad to full emergency mode in about half a second, with messages flying in over what is happening, whether something has gone wrong, and whether this is even real. The party panics with them because by then it already is. As the web pulls him away, one girl looks on in horror and realizes Cyan has been caught in a warp trap. Another identifies the thing for what it really is, a teleport web. That thought lands like a bad story nobody wanted to read, and the answer follows immediately. This is Arachne, the SES rank boss. The implication is brutal. Anyone snared by that trap gets sent straight into Arachne's nest, which means Cyan has most likely been thrown there already. The final image drives it home with a nest choked in webbing and remains, alongside the grim reminder that plenty of adventurers have already met the same fate there. 1 second the stream is running on recovery arc confidence, and the next it has hard pivoted into nightmare fuel with no loading screen. The stream comments start barking orders at the party to stop hesitating and go save Cyan already, and the pressure hits hard enough that Sarah answers with a sharp exhale. Yulia and Mikari glance over, all three of them tense up, and then the mood shifts from stunned to committed. Hands move, feet set, light flares across the transfer point, and the trio steps forward into the web-choked depths, until the route drops them into the 45th underground floor, the lair of the Se-rank boss Arachne. Once they arrive, one of them realizes out loud that they are standing inside Arachne's nest, and Sarah quickly adds that the front entrance is already too blocked off for a clean escape. The place looks less like a room and more like a spider, won a zoning dispute. Then a voice greets them from above with open delight, amused that 4 of them have come to play, and calling the whole thing a lucky haul. Arachne finally reveals herself in full, grinning like she has been waiting all day for this exact kind of terrible company, and then drops down toward them while the party stares up and braces. The chat immediately starts wobbling between doom posting and cope, with one viewer already fearing that Kumazemi's stream is about to end in another abrupt disaster, while another insists it is not over yet because Sion is still there. And Sion really does step in alive, calm and annoyingly composed, deciding that they will handle this by the book. A supportive comment cheers him on, frames this as his shot to push the party towards rank, before that can spiral any further. Arachne attacks, Sojon throws up a defense buff, Mikari layers another boost on top, and Julia drives straight in with an attack of her own. That hit lands clean enough for the viewers to erupt over Julia, praising the strike and treating it like the comeback has started, but the celebration dies fast when others point out that the blow still was not enough, and start asking to see Goria's move next. Julia's face tightens, the air around Arachne darkens, and the boss answers with a much nastier counter. Black jagged spikes burst outward across the battlefield in a brutal spread. Sarah sees the danger a beat too late, and the next instant the attack is already on him. The frame closes on his shocked face, and a raw cry tearing out of him as blood splashes across the moment, because this rescue attempt just got hit with the kind of punishment that makes everybody watching sit up at once. Sion responds to the pressure by activating auto heal, and Mikari follows right behind him with acceleration and an agility buff, stacking support on him fast enough that the stream comments immediately start breaking down the build in real time. One viewer points out that auto heal is Sion's top-tier healing spell and says it should let him shrug off smaller hits. Another praises Mikari and says that with those buffs, Sarah might finally have a real shot. Then the armchair tacticians arrive on schedule, with one insisting the acceleration should have gone to Sarah first and another instantly shutting that takedown, like the comments section just held a balance update meeting. Arachne watches all of it, pieces the setup together at once, and quietly realizes exactly why the party is moving this way. She identifies Sion as the healer, reads the human formation like she has the whole comp sheet open in another tab, and decides that the obvious move is to go after him first. She also makes it clear that this sort of targeting only fails when the enemy is acting on pure instinct, which she very much is not. Then she attacks, sending a vicious wave of strikes ripping across the battlefield while the whole party stares up in alarm, and she makes it clear she has no intention of picking them off slowly when she can wipe them out all at once. That threat lands immediately. Sion and Mikari tense as the attack tears in. Julia realizes how bad it is, a split second later, and Sion calls on her to cover him. She moves at once, plants herself, and intercepts the assault long enough for Sion to breathe and acknowledge the save. For a moment it looks like the emergency has been contained. Julia checks on Mikari, and the response makes it clear that the immediate danger to her has passed. Then Arachne appears again from behind Julia, cool as ever, and makes it brutally clear that escape was never really on the table. With a smug little flourish, she points out that when she said she would take them all out at once, she was not talking about only 2 people. The next instant, Julia is caught and slammed into her trap, crying out as the hit lands hard, and that is when Mikari and Sarah whip around and call for her in shock. So just when it looks like the party has stabilized, Arachne pulls the rug out from under them like a villain who absolutely did not come here to play fair. Julia lies trapped in Arachne's webbing, battered and furious, while the live comments instantly turn into a blame war. Some viewers call the situation a disaster, and argue that Julia was never supposed to be tanking in the first place. Others push back and tell everyone to stop blaming her, because she only got caught trying to protect the healer. Another side argues that if there is no proper tank, then the damage dealers should be doubling up to cover that gap. Right in the middle of that chaos, Sarah snaps, roars, and throws himself back at Arachne with all the subtlety of a rage-cued speedrun, the two of them trading violent flashes of steel and movement while she keeps smiling through it. Her expression stays so smug it feels like she is asking whether she has done anything wrong, while actively making everyone's day worse. At the same time, Sion casts Regeneration 2 trying to stabilize the situation while the fight keeps sliding sideways. The attack sequence continues in quick bursts, and then Mikari notices Sion and calls out to him because something about him has clearly changed. The camera cuts back to Julia and Mikari, both pinned and struggling in the web, while the comments beg Sir to do something and cry out over Mikari. Sion coughs, wavers, and gets flooded with more pressure from the viewers, who urge Sarah to stop hesitating and get healing to him fast. Instead of rallying, Sion's face hardens. In his head, he starts blaming these same useless party members again, convinced that they are always dragging him down. Then he notices something strange nearby and realizes a door has opened. As soon as Sion figures out that the door can be opened from the outside but not from the inside, his whole mindset flips. He sees it as a 1 in a million chance, decides heaven itself must want him alive, and the comment section immediately starts suspecting the unthinkable, that he is about to abandon everyone. And that is exactly what happens. While Julia and Mikari remain collapsed behind him, and the battlefield keeps burning, Sion runs for the exit, telling himself that he cannot die here, not him, because he is special. That is the moment the mask really cracks, and it does not slip quietly either. It falls off like a live-streamed reputation collapse as Sion makes his break for the exit, only for the door to slam shut right in front of him. He spins around and immediately loses it, cursing whoever closed it and demanding to know why they would do that. Then the moment twists. Kuga appears, looking dazed, like he blanked out for a second, and only just realized he has been dropped into absolute chaos. The others register him a heartbeat later, call out to him in shock, and admit they did not really believe he would come, even if part of them is relieved that he did anyway. It is the kind of entrance that makes the whole battlefield pause. Kuga does not waste the opening. He lunges straight into the fight with his blade up and barrels at Arachne, hard enough to make even her stop and reassess. She scoffs, stares at him in disbelief, and openly questions what this even is, because human parties are supposed to cap out at 4 members. Kuga catches on in the same instant and realizes that this must be his hero skill, Salvation, taking effect. The ability has let him swap into the battle in the middle of a 4-person party encounter, and he has just traded places with Sumian, like the universe itself got tired of that man's decisions. The mechanism becomes clear fast. In other words, Kuga has been swapped in for Sion, and dropped directly into the boss fight. He even realizes there might have been more efficient choices, like swapping with the already downed Julia, or maybe with Makari, but in the heat of the moment he picked Sion because Sion had literally abandoned them outside. That choice is not elegant, but it is very honest. Once he settles into the reality of it, Kuga calls out to Alicia and asks her for one more favor. Alicia asks what he wants, and Kuga gets straight to the point. He wants her to protect him from Arachne's stray attacks while he fights. Alicia clearly does not love the request, but after a beat she accepts it anyway. A viewer notices Alicia on the field and wonders why the vampire is there without helping. Alicia answers that, unfortunately, she does not seem suited to taking part in this battle. More reactions stack up right away, with viewers treating that as a new discovery. Makari calls out in surprise, but Sarah, battered and angry, turns his attention elsewhere and condemns Sion as a spineless healer. He makes it clear that he might have been able to tolerate Sion looking down on Kuga, but not after this. Sarah then says the rest plainly. He states that someone who tried to run away and leave the others behind has no right to look down on Kuga. Makari can only stare at him in shock. The comment feed immediately piles on, with viewers saying that alone is enough to make Sion guilty, admitting they are disappointed in him, and calling him pathetic. Makari, still trying to process it, questions whether Master Sion really tried to run. The comments split for a moment, with one viewer insisting Sion would never do that, but others point out that he did have that strange blackout for a moment, and another person remembers that something similar happened when his old party was wiped out. While all of that is being said, the fight continues overhead. Makari looks up at Kuga in disbelief, and wonders what kind of person he really is. Arachne lashes out at him in frustration, demanding an answer with her claws already moving, but Kuga keeps pushing through the web-filled space without breaking. His face stays set, he cuts forward again, and Alicia watches as he closes in, and keeps the pressure on. The exchange ends with Arachne crying out as the attack lands. After that, one stunned reaction asks what is even happening anymore, and a viewer spells it out in disbelief by noting that Kuga is winning a one-on-one fight against an S-class. Alicia admits that when Kuga fought her, she did think he was doing well, but even so, this is more than she expected. Another voice wonders whether he was really this strong all along. Sarah quietly confirms it, and states that this is Kuga's true strength. About a month earlier, Sarah looked Kuga in the eye, and told him he would have to leave Kumazemi. Julia and Makari could only stare back in shock. Then the real point came into focus. The hero job itself was known as a jack-of-all-trades class, but Kuga himself was something else entirely. He was different. He had already gone beyond the limits of an ordinary hero. He excelled everywhere at once, in offense, defense, support, and healing. So he was not some half-finished generalist at all. He was a genuine all-rounder. Kuga had been born with natural talent, and his raw strength alone could stand beside an S-rank boss. But because Kumazemi had no healer, he got pushed into both the healer role and the tank role. Through quiet, relentless training, the potential that should have let him soar kept getting burned up just to keep the rest of them alive. Even so, that hidden talent finally bloomed. That, in their eyes, was exactly why they had to free him from the chains they themselves had placed on him. Makari admitted that she had already understood that much, but still could not shake her doubts and asked whether this really had to be the way they did it. Sura answered that Kuga would have refused every single time. He added that even if they had told him honestly and explained everything properly, the result would not have changed. Kuga's sense of duty was too stubborn, and his sense of self-worth was far too low. That answer left the girls in silence, the kind that says the logic may be solid, but it still tastes awful going down. Then someone finished the thought out loud and reasoned that Kuga probably would not defeat the hidden boss, the vampire, all by himself, but he would at least fight hard enough to make his name known. So they forced him out of Kumazemi and sent him to face the vampire anyway, while secretly staying close by and monitoring his stream, ready to smash into the hidden chamber if anything went wrong. And inside that chamber, Kuga raised his hand, cast heal, surged forward and struck, while the vampire reeled back with a pained gasp. So yes, their support plan turned out to be exile, surveillance, and a live boss trial, which is one way to run character development. Arachne surges forward, and with a smug grin, makes it clear that Kuga is not the only one there who can heal. She even concedes that he surprised her a little, but only a little. At the same time, unseen voices on the stream react that the enemy is completely busted and that the regeneration is way too fast. Another viewer notes that Kuga seems to be holding his own, but someone immediately shuts that down and points out that he still cannot break through Arachne's healing. Arachne keeps smiling, laughs under her breath, gives Kuga credit for trying, and then twists the knife by making it clear that all he is really doing is bleeding out more slowly. Kuga does not answer right away. He lowers his gaze, tightens up, and the whole fight takes on that dangerous stillness where it looks like he is finally locked onto something. Then Kuga suddenly calls Sarah's name. Sarah looks over in surprise, and Kuga asks him to hold Arachne off for just a moment, then adds a quiet plea. Sarah grips his weapon, gives a hesitant acknowledgement, and in the next instant charges with a full-throated roar, throwing himself straight back at Arachne. As that happens, Kuga apologizes. A shocked voice asks what this even is, and Kuga answers that it is the activation condition for his new trait. Right after that, he states with cold clarity that it is nothing personal, and that he does not owe anything either. Off to the side, someone starts to realize what he means and reacts like a horrible answer has just loaded in all at once. She realizes that the reason Kuga made the vampire protect him was tied to this move, and Alicia answers with zero guilt. Alicia coolly implies that she has nothing to apologize for, then adds that Arachne was a monster to begin with, so the moral outrage is not exactly winning today. Nearby, someone stares at what Kuga has done and realizes in horror that this is a sacrifice. Sion refuses to accept what is happening. Even as he drops, he insists he has no time to waste, and another voice tears into him by demanding whether he has any idea how hard everyone worked to reach this point. He tries to deny it, tells himself he is not finished yet, and desperately searches for some way to climb back up. Then, right before the fall fully takes him, he apologizes. The apology lasts about half a heartbeat before it turns into a full panic scream. He crashes down. The viewers immediately realize Kuga really went through with it, and while some admit Sion was unbearable, they still recoil at what they just saw. A violent surge erupts and Arachne feels it instantly. Her face tightens, her eyes sharpen, Arachne recoils, curses under her breath, and then gets hit by a sudden rush of attacks. Kuga closes in, drives the pressure onto her, and forces her backward hard enough to make even her lose the smug rhythm for a second. She stumbles into confusion. Alicia looks up in shock, and the people watching can only stare because something about Kuga has very clearly changed right in front of them. One of the girls, still caught in the mess, looks at the battlefield and asks what is even happening anymore. Alicia answers that question with a quiet laugh instead of panic. When the injured girl turns to Alicia and demands to know what she did to Kuga, Alicia tells her she did nothing at all. Then she drops the real answer. Kuga is no longer the person they used to know. Kuga himself follows that up from inside his own head, admitting that Alicia is right, and that the thing that changed was his job. He identifies that new job as Fallen Hero, and explains that it awakened the day he fought the Monster Slayer, the first time he ever unalived someone. Even so, he makes it clear that at its core, Fallen Hero is still built on the same foundation as Hero. He goes further and explains that he even kept the salvation trait, but the trade-off is brutal. He can no longer cast healing and support magic on anyone except himself, and in return his offensive power has skyrocketed. Then he reveals the real difference, a new trait called Soul Salvation. By saving souls, his power multiplies. But that phrase only sounds noble until he spells out what it really means, because saving a soul in this form means erasing it into nothing. And with that, the whole scene snaps into awful clarity. In plain terms, the more he defeats enemies, the stronger he becomes. That is not a glow-up, but is the kind of update that makes the entire server go silent. Kuga keeps pressing Arachne without letting up. She winces, protests that she does not want this, and then, after another rush of blows, completely breaks, screaming for him to stop and begging to surrender. With Arachne down in front of him, Kuga tells her to free the other two and open the door. Arachne can only stare back in confusion. Kuga then warns her not to touch anyone who is still alive, adding that if she swears to that, he will not kill her. He says he has already sided with the monsters, and because of that he will not needlessly kill monsters that can be reasoned with. Arachne is left sniffling and clutching herself while the comments erupt, with some calling him a killer, others arguing that he already was one, others mocking that logic, and more voices piling on in disbelief over how strong he is, how insane this looks, and how in their eyes, he now comes off as a steady betrayer of humanity. Another comment notices Alicia's appearance and warns that if sunlight reaches her, it is over. One more viewer, apparently having a delayed spiritual crisis, wonders why they even liked Sion in the first place. After that, Julia calls out to Kuga. Kuga and Alicia are already moving away when Julia runs after them, and someone behind her yells for her to stop and calls her name. Kuga turns back and answers her. Julia falters and struggles to continue, and then Sarah, from where he is, thanks Kuga very much for everything. Sarah then asks Kuga why he came. Kuga hesitates, but the comments immediately cut in on his behalf, saying he came to save Kumazemi. Julia rejects that and tells him he is not part of Kumazemi anymore. He says he should not have come and tells him never to do something like this again. The comments fire back at once, cursing her for that attitude, pointing out that even after being kicked out, Kuga still came back for them, and turning the whole moment into a public dragging. Kuga listens, then quietly says he understands what she is trying to say now. After that, he turns away and tells Alicia it is time to go. Kuga and Alicia are still processing the info, and the others all freeze in the same stunned beat before Makari steps forward, trembling hard enough to make it obvious she has hit her limit. When someone calls her name and asks what is wrong, she snaps at Sarah to keep quiet. Then Makari fully breaks. She says she has had enough, that she is done putting up with all of it, that she cannot take it anymore, and that she is finally going to tell Kuga everything. She says she is sick of watching people throw themselves away for no reason. Off to the side, the others can only note how abnormal this is, because Makari is usually calm and they have never seen her like this before, while one worried voice asks Sura what they are supposed to do now. And with that, the whole secret finally gets dragged into the light. The truth reaches Kuga, and it reaches his viewers too. Kuga goes quiet and asks for a little time. After that, time passes. A house sits in stillness. Kuga lies back thinking, then gets up, moves through the room and hears Alicia call his name. Alicia looks at him, slightly unsure, and waits for what he wants to say. Kuga tells her that tomorrow he is going to speak with Kumazemi again. Alicia reacts with confusion and asks what is wrong. Kuga apologizes for springing it on her, then asks whether she can come with him. Alicia hesitates, clearly caught off guard, gives a small uncertain reaction, and then after a pause agrees. Night settles over the house. Alicia sits with that answer for a moment, and by the next day the two of them are already moving. The scene shifts to the 43rd floor of the dungeon, right near the entrance to the hidden boss room. There, Kuga unexpectedly runs into someone from Kumazemi, and that person admits they did not expect to see him again so soon. Kuga quietly apologizes to Alicia for dragging her out there and thanks her for coming along. Alicia tells him it is fine and asks what he wanted to talk about. But the moment the question lands, she starts fumbling inside her own head instead. She hesitates, realizes she is nervous, then gets even more thrown because she cannot figure out why she would be nervous in the first place. She even starts telling herself that even if Kuga were to return to this party, it is not as though she particularly cared, which is exactly the kind of thought that shows up when denial is already losing on points. Before she can dig herself any deeper, Kuga looks at Kumazemi and correctly figures out that they are searching for a healer. That thought makes Alicia immediately wonder what that means, but Kuga explains that he does not have anyone as elite as Sion in mind, only someone he can recommend. Then he notices Alicia smiling and asks why, and Alicia pulls the classic innocent routine, even though the smile is already caught in 4K, insisting that she is not smiling at all. Kuga moves on and introduces Kushina, explaining that she is a regenerator. He adds that she wants to try streaming too, that she is willing to work hard and get battle ready fast, and that while she does not have much dungeon experience, she was apparently a real standout back in school. When one of the girls asks about her healing, Kuga says her healing ability is more than solid. Then he adds that if they bring in Kushina, they will not even have to change the party name, and Sarah follows that by saying he never planned to change it anyway. One of the girls thanks Kuga, says she wants to speak to Kushina herself, and asks him to share her contact. Kuga agrees right away. Then a notification pops up announcing a message from a viewer. Someone opens it, and the mood shifts fast. Sarah catches the name Arachne. Kuga asks what is going on, and the answer hits like a brick. Arachne has just been taken down by Evil Slayer. Kuga immediately recognizes the name and realizes they are talking about the S-rank party. Then the video starts playing, and an unseen speaker addresses the vampire and Kuga with open contempt, checking whether they are watching. The speaker keeps pressing, mocking them for cowering, reminding them that they still have not taken down a single S-rank boss, and showing off a ruined Arachne as proof that monsters need to be taught their place like this. Then the speaker makes sure the threat is understood and flatly names them as the next target. Kuga stares at the screen in silence while the whole thing settles into place. Evil Slayer really is that brutal S-rank party, and as the air goes cold around the group, someone nearby sums it up with the only verdict left. This has just turned into a mess. Alicia perks up the second she sees Kumazemi and takes the whole thing as a sign that some lively prey has finally arrived, but Sarah immediately warns Kuga that this could turn messy fast. When Alicia asks why, Kuga tells her this is a much bigger deal than she realizes. Alicia, completely unfazed, declares that she will turn those fools into honey. Kuga dryly corrects that into more of a beehive image. Alicia happily rolls with it, and even Sarah seems amused before asking the vampire if he can speak with Kuga alone for a while. Alicia pauses, then says she does not really mind, and as the others step away and leave the girls behind, the mood turns awkward enough to need its own escort. Once they are apart, Sarah apologizes for forcing Kuga out the way he did. Kuga admits that it really did hurt. Sarah says he knows, and Kuga answers that he had already figured as much, then apologizes too. That makes Sarah stop for a moment before telling him to look at himself now. He explains that Julia had been losing it behind the scenes, calling Kuga a traitor over and over, but even so he cannot help thinking that a vampire and a fallen hero make a pretty striking combination. He says it is not the straight-laced future they had pictured, yet he kind of admires the whole dark hero thing anyway. Then he wonders, almost teasingly, whether if a sword saint unalives, that would make him a fallen sword saint too, and quickly laughs it off as a joke. Kuga just stares, because it has been a long time since he last saw Sarah smile like that, and the smile looks exactly like the one Sarah wore back in high school when he first talked to him. Alicia catches up with him afterward, and asks whether in the end, he accepted Sarah's plan to free him from Kumazemi. Kuga tells her it is more complicated than that. Then he says the part that really lands. If what he has become now had felt like nothing, he might actually have gone back. Alicia blanks on the spot. First she just stares, then her face jolts from confusion into full shock, like her thoughts just hit a critical error and forgot how to reboot. The city stretches out beside them, their footsteps keep moving forward, and she can only stand there in silence while that answer sinks in. All the way, Kuga lays out what the two of them have actually started, and the answer is much bigger than a simple hideout. Alicia, chasing the conditions for becoming an SS rank boss, fixates on the castle requirement after going over the checklist in her guide. With a single line about wanting a calm place where she can see her sky, she pushes the plan forward, and with kobolds and Grey's werewolves helping, construction begins on the upper layer of floor 43 by the lakeshore. It is basically monster real estate development with boss rank ambitions attached. Then Wano suddenly sounds the alarm. Kuga asks what is wrong. Alicia turns and a black crack opens ahead of them, just before a huge chunk that looks like ice comes flying in and detonates across the area. Alicia realizes at once that they are under attack, while Kuga is still catching up to what just slammed into their brand new setup. Right after that, a message appears declaring that anyone who disturbs Alicia will be punished personally. Another line questions whether saying something like that is really a good idea, and then Urakawa answers that the ones behind it are him and his side. Reactions flash in immediately, including shock, disbelief, and the grim acknowledgement that this was bound to happen. Kuga warns Alicia, Urakawa doubles down, and Kuga finally identifies the name behind it all as Evil Slayer. Alicia asks what Evil Slayer is, and Kuga explains that it is the S-rank party that declared war on them over the Arachne incident. That makes Alicia finally connect the dots. Urakawa then presses the issue by asking who exactly Alicia planned to punish. Panic spreads among the onlookers as they realize the same man who had been talking about justice is right there, and Urakawa casually dismisses everyone else as background noise that does not matter. From there he turns his attention fully to Alicia and Kuga, addresses them as the vampire and the useless hero, and makes it clear that this is only the beginning. Alicia, still trying to process how fast this escalated, wonders whether they really managed to pick a fight with them at all. Urakawa answers that they did the moment they defended monsters, and that now it is time for them to pay. Kuga explains that this traces back to taking down Monster Slayer's junior team. Alicia understands, and Urakawa adds that he is looking forward to wiping that smug attitude off her face and leaving her to tremble until then. Alicia, annoyed more than intimidated, asks people not to drop threats like that right in front of them. Kuga dryly points out that being targeted by Evil Slayer is not something to laugh off, because those people play for keeps. Even so, Alicia's blunt complaint lightens the mood a little, and the reactions around them soften just enough to admit she has a point. Then the question of who exactly she meant to punish comes back around, and Alicia matter-of-fact names Urakawa himself before admitting that the one who posted that challenge was her. A beat later, her face changes. She realizes the message went out from her alt account, and she mentally faceplants on the spot. Nothing happens right away, but after a week passes, Sarah sends Kuga a message telling him to pull up Evil Slayer's stream, and Kuga is left staring at it, confused, as the next problem comes sprinting in. Alicia opens the stream by announcing that they are doing a campfire stream that day, and the feed comes up with her and Kuga on screen. Almost immediately, the view cuts to flames tearing through the site, while Urakawa laughs and remarks that the wood burns really nicely. Alicia huffs at the sight, then Urakawa leans in closer, addresses Alicia as the vampire and Kuga as the useless hero and asks whether they are watching. Kuga realizes the attack hit while everyone was away, and the shot lingers on the kobold's manor. Alicia then calls Kuga by name and tells him to go to Wano. Kuga agrees, and the two of them head over. Alicia kneels in front of Wano, calls his name and apologizes to him. Wano weakly answers her, and Alicia can only repeat his name back, shaken. She then says she is sorry and admits that they might not have been able to do anything. The stream then shifts to Salamander, identifying it as a monster that once held Supplayer rank boss status, while also showing that its body is now ragged and full of wounds. Urakawa praises Salamander for the job it has done. After that, he tells Alicia and Kuga that if the last incident was the appetizer, then this one should be treated as the side dish. He follows that by saying that 3 days from now the main course will come, then calls that main course the real dish. As the silhouettes of Evil Slayer stand in the wreckage, he declares that they will target Alicia and Kuga's loved ones and their precious castle site, and that Evil Slayer will be going all out. Kuga can only react with a strained groan as the threat lands. A dark laugh follows while Alicia and Kuga stand there absorbing it. Alicia then says that this is all her fault. She apologizes again, calls Wano's name, and says she underestimated them. She admits that she thought they would simply beat them back when they came, but now she sees that those people are different. Urakawa answers that they are vile, no doubt, but not idiots. Kuga agrees and says it is easy to call Evil Slayer cowardly. What follows makes the point for him. They moved with calculated precision, avoided any unplanned fights, and damaged Alicia's morale and the morale of the others. Alicia opens by ordering everyone to prepare for the assault and establish a thorough defense. Wano answers with an eager bark. Kuga gives his understanding, and then the situation cuts over to a live stream that suddenly goes up around 3 in the afternoon, just 1 hour after Evil Slayer's declaration of war. Urakawa appears on screen and casually introduces himself as being from Evil Slayer, then immediately admits he was wrong when he previously said the attack would happen in 3 days. The comments jump on him at once, with viewers pointing out that this was not a harmless slip of the tongue at all, and flat out calling him a scumbag, and Urakawa enjoys every second of that outrage because to him the screaming only makes the show better. Then he drops the real timing and reveals that the attack is actually starting in 1 hour. From there, Urakawa explains that he is currently up on the upper layer of floor 43 near the vampire's construction site, but then he pivots and says that actually they also have a connection to underground floor 45. He calls out to his accomplice Hibio on floor 45. Hibio confirms he is there, and a startled viewer immediately realizes that Urakawa and Hibio are in different locations and starts wondering how that is even possible. Another person hears floor 45 and begins to put the pieces together, and Urakawa confirms the guess with a smug look, noting that Hibio is currently standing right in front of the werewolf manor, and the comments roast Urakawa for being as scummy as ever, pointing out that he announced an attack on one castle, only to show up and burn down a completely different one, even dragging a salamander into the plan like he is trying to win Villain of the Month. Urakawa calmly explains that they will torch the place first, and adds that he also has unfinished business with that werewolf, before saying that they are going to make him howl. That line instantly throws the werewolf listening in, who demands to know who exactly he means, while Hibio also jolts in surprise. Then the werewolf notes that all of the werewolves were supposed to be out helping build Alicia's castle, so seeing werewolves here makes no sense at all, and Hibio can only react with confused silence, as the whole setup starts wobbling. The werewolf finally explains that Big Sister Alicia ordered them all back to the castle immediately. Hibio goes quiet, and before that can settle, a new message pops up, announcing that the vampire has started streaming too. Urakawa notices it, someone calls his attention to it, and he turns toward the screen with a puzzled reaction. Then Alicia appears on the broadcast and calmly introduces herself to everyone. Kuga follows by pointing out that the Slayer attacks have already begun, and Alicia answers with total composure, saying the evil on display is refreshingly blatant though not surprising, before declaring that they will face this battle head-on. Urakawa laughs at that and sneers that hearing a monster call something evil is rich. So just like that, the war gets its opening speeches from both sides, and nobody in the room is pretending. Urakawa calls over to Hibio and points out that the werewolves appear to have already gone back to the castle. The response he gets is that this is not a problem. He then checks whether Hibio is watching, turns his attention toward Alicia, and addresses her directly. Alicia answers by coolly noting that he did a nice job sending the werewolves back to the manor, but she adds that he should keep one thing in mind. Urakawa, smiling like he has been waiting to press this button all day, cuts in and reveals that he and his side have prepared a little surprise. Right after that, the screen split across multiple faces at once, with Hibio looking rattled, Kumazemi shown tense and armed, and Alicia and Kuga staring forward as the situation shifts from a threat into a coordinated setup. The feed then jumps to a location card showing the Kumazemi filming drone on underground floor 37, and one of the girls asks what exactly they are even supposed to be looking at there. The answer appears immediately when Arachne's massive body comes into view. Viewers on the stream panic and identify her at once, while others ask why she is there, and Sarah quietly confirms that it really is Arachne. One of the girls checks whether this is the same Seirank monster they fought the other day, and the others confirm that it is. Then a damaged dark object comes into frame. One girl hesitates over it, and the comments start identifying what they are seeing as a ruined zombie-like Arachne, while also pointing out that it already looks wrecked. The whole reveal lands like someone uploaded a nightmare and labeled it evidence. As the group keeps watching, someone begins to say that this has Evil Slayer written all over it, while another admits she does not know the full details yet. The girls then realize that the enemy stream has cut to this exact spot. Hisbagyo reacts in shock, and the viewers catch on a second later, realizing that other places are being raided at the same time too. Sarah goes still, pieces the whole pattern together, and says he understands now, because they are connected to Kuga, they are being targeted as hostages. That deduction gets an immediate answer when Urakawa confirms it with a blunt, satisfied acknowledgement. The comment feed erupts over Urakawa being there in person and asks whether that is really him. Another message follows by saying that since Kumazemi seems unusually close to that so-called bad hero, they have been chosen for this. Sarah turns in visible surprise, and Urakawa steps into frame right beside him, wearing that same smug expression. He needles Sarah for getting too cozy with monsters, then calmly tells him to enjoy his little reunion with Miss Arachne. The stream opens with Mishihara introducing herself from a filming drone feed on upper floor 43, where full-scale castle construction is already underway. Right beside her stands Kamakichi, identified as a former S-rank boss ogre, and she presents him to the viewers like he is the special guest of the day. She keeps talking while the feed shows that she has been filming from behind him for a while, and Kamakichi starts to notice that they are even being filmed from above too. Mishihara then begins teasing that this is not all they have prepared for today, making it clear that the construction footage is only the opening act. When Mishihara tells Kamakichi to take a closer look, he blurts out a wild guess that sounds more like dairy cow manor than anything useful, and she immediately corrects him towards something more like bullfighting instead. The comments pounce on that mistake at once, clowning him with dairy cow jokes and laughing all over the feed. Mishihara keeps the stream moving anyway, and explains that the plan is to take the targets down quickly and cleanly. The camera then cycles through the drone's tagged targets, highlighting the Minotaur side, Kumazemi, and the werewolf side one after another. Watching all of this, Alicia quietly reflects that humans really do know how to strike where it hurts most, and Kuga can only agree with her. Then Urakawa's side makes it worse. A message arrives making it clear that the vampire's location is not free of threats either, and Alicia immediately focuses on the enemy in front of them. She identifies them as a swarm of locust goblin zombies. Kuga stares at the number of them, notes just how many there are, and points out that while each one is not especially strong on its own, they have become genuinely annoying to deal with in a group. The Shiba squad answers that tension with a chorus of barking from Wano and the others, ready to move. And with the manor already trashed, and this new mess piling on top of it, someone can only voice a weary apology to Wano, while the little commander barks back like he is already preparing the counterattack. The locust goblin zombies come flooding in as Wano and the Shiba squad throw themselves into the swarm, barking and pushing back while claws and jagged bodies close from every side. A shaken voice calls out Wano's name, the crushed titans, and the little pack gets slammed around in the chaos. Wano is struck again, Alicia sees it happen, and all the bravado leaves her at once as she cries out in horror. In the aftermath, she can barely process what she just saw, and Kuga steps in to steady her, and asks if she is okay. When Alicia turns to him in confusion and asks what he means, Kuga tells her that it is only his impression, but she really is not cut out to be a monster at all. That exchange gets cut short by a scream. Alicia and Kuga both snap toward it, and Alicia immediately recognizes the voice, and calls out to Mino. The scene then jumps to Mishihara's camera drone, over the bullfighters' hall on the dungeon's upper floor, where someone on the enemy side orders Ogre to get moving and show everyone what a veteran can do. The Ogre answers with a full roar, and the whole setup starts looking less like a battle and more like a very public trap with good camera work. The fight escalates fast. A groan breaks through the tangle, and Mishihara urges the viewers to watch closely, pointing out that the weirdly cute-voiced fighter and their zombie ogre are putting on one hell of a show. The audience immediately realizes what that means and starts marveling that two S-class bosses are fighting each other, wondering if anything like this has ever happened before. Then the clash itself answers for them. Mino and the ogre collide head-on, blows flash between them. The ogre takes a clean hit, and someone on the stream blurts out an alarm that ogre just got tagged. Mino keeps pressing forward with a sharp cry as the exchange continues. From there, the enemy side starts breaking the matchup down in real time. Someone explains that the ogre does not feel pain, and that it is not because he is unalive either, because even when it was alive, pain barely affected it. After that, the same voice decides that, even so, it should lend him a hand. The next instant, the hat-wearing man charges in from the side and drives his weapon toward Mino, while she is still focused on the ogre. Mino only notices him at the last second. Her eyes fly open, and the moment freezes on that shock because the fight has just turned into a 2-on-1 ambush with absolutely no interest in pretending otherwise. Mino and Kameoka stay locked in a brutal exchange, with one cry cutting through the clash, another hit snapping across the frame, and Kameoka grunting as Mino barrels straight back at him with all her anger pinned on him alone. Another heavy blow lands. The host remarks that Kameoka still hits as hard as ever, and Kameoka proudly agrees. Even the running commentary has to admit that for all the goofing around, those two are the real thing. Back at Alicia's construction site on the dungeon's upper 49th floor, Alicia stiffens as Kuga's camera drone shows the fight, and when Kuga calls her name, she turns in confusion. He tells her she can go. Alicia does not understand at first, but Kuga presses gently that she wants to, and when she hesitates over Kumazemi and whether his old teammates will be alright by themselves, he admits that he cannot say for sure. Then he gives the answer that really lands. When humans go down, they do not just disappear. They might never come back to the dungeon, but they do not simply vanish from the world. That stops Alicia cold. The stream comments immediately side with Kuga, with one person backing him outright, and another grumbling that they hate losing Kumazemi's stream but still admitting he is right. Kuga then tells Alicia she should go to Mino-chan. Alicia lowers her head, apologizes, and the mood shifts from hesitation to decision. Kuga tells the kobolds to stay put and listen, while Alicia turns toward them and says she is leaving her post to go save a friend. Then, as the master of that castle and the one they serve, she tells them she owes them an apology. With the kobolds staring up at her, Alicia says they already know this, but Kuga, the one who made her who she is now, is there. She says he is the only person she trusts more than anyone else, and from this point on they are to follow his judgment. That is not a casual endorsement anymore. That is the whole throne getting reassigned in real time. The kobolds answer in a chorus of excited barks, and Alicia adds one more instruction. If the situation demands it, they are allowed to abandon the castle. Then she cuts herself short, says that is all, and apologizes again. Wano cries out loudly enough for the stream itself to echo the sound right back at her. Kuga tells Alicia that they are all telling her to go, and after a small shaken breath, Alicia promises that she will come back. Kuga answers that she will, then stops her one more time and hands her a device. When Alicia asks what it is, he explains that he figured something like this might happen eventually, so he got a backup stream drone from Kumazemi. He leaves its use entirely up to her. Alicia takes that in, stares at him for a moment, and quietly says she understands. After that, the last preparations are made in silence. The spare drone activates, and the two of them part with a brief farewell that says more than either of them is willing to spell out. Kuga closes his eyes, lets the moment settle, and when he opens them again, he is steady. He calls out to the kobolds, tells them it is time to go, and the whole pack surges behind him with Wano barking at full volume. On Alicia's camera drone feed up on the dungeon's upper 46th floor, Alicia stiffens, gives a small acknowledgement, and the view immediately catches hurried movement across the stone before cutting away. Down on the lower 37th floor, Kumazemi's camera drone picks up the former S-class monster Arachne standing in front of the group. She looks them over, says she knew she had seen them somewhere before, and admits that they are not exactly an easy party to deal with. The blonde swordsman answers by asking whether Evil Slayer was the one that brought her down, and Arachne confirms that it was. He stares at what she has become, says that this is how she ended up, and curses under his breath. Arachne studies herself too, remarks that some parts of her still do not seem to be working properly, then corrects herself and lays it out plainly. She is back, and now she serves Lord Evil Slayer. The girls listening can barely process that, with one admitting she has no idea how that is even possible, and another concluding that Evil Slayer can somehow turn slain monsters into servants. The only answer that follows is stunned disbelief. Arachne enjoys that reaction, says the timing is perfect, and adds that letting this group escape last time has been bothering her ever since. She also notes that the party looks a little different now. The blonde swordsman concedes that the party is different, but makes it clear that this is not the real issue. Arachne glances past them, realizes Kuga is not coming, and almost sounds amused by it. He confirms that she is right, and says he doubts Kuga will come. Kushina jolts at that and blurts out her disbelief. He explains that Kuga probably will not show up because he already has his hands full somewhere else, and with Kuga's priorities as they are now, this group is not exactly high on his list. One of the girls immediately says they do not need Kuga. At the same time, people watching the stream note that things sound much worse on Kuga's side, and point out that he has openly chosen to prioritize monsters, because monsters who die there do not get another round. It is a rough truth and it lands like wet cement. Kushina can only stare for a second, trying to catch up, while another girl starts to explain the reason. When Kushina reacts in open shock and asks whether they are serious, the answer comes back without wavering. The logic is simple now. Kushina is with them. And with that, one of the girls quietly frames Kushina herself as the reason they can stand there and say they do not need Kuga anymore. Arachne glares at the group and says that just listening to them is enough to make her sick. The three girls face her in silence. One of them gives a short, measured response, and Arachne immediately pushes harder by asking whether they really think they can handle everything by themselves. Sarah steps forward with his sword raised, and makes it clear that yes, that is exactly the plan. Arachne goes quiet for a beat, visibly thrown by how direct that answer is. She recovers at once and mocks them for suddenly acting brave, reminding them that last time they could not even touch her, let alone beat her with all four members present. Then she says she may as well refresh their memory. Before she can press that advantage, the long-haired girl cuts in and invokes a spell called Holy Night. Arachne's composure cracks on the spot. She jerks in shock as the attack comes through, takes the hit, and reels back with a pained gasp. Sarah follows right behind it and asks whether she can still regenerate. That question lands. Arachne stares at the long-haired girl and realizes the saint she expected to be nothing but dead weight is not playing that role at all. She reacts with open disbelief, while another voice immediately says the plan has changed, and someone else acknowledges it. Then the stream comments explode. The long-haired girl is suddenly greeted as Goria. People celebrate that Goria is back, and the same girl flatly tells them to stop calling her that. Right after that, the girl with twin tails activates Magic Boost, and the long-haired girl answers by saying it is time to go. The chat surges again behind her. As the pressure swings back their way, the comments keep cheering them on, telling them they can do this, and directly urging Kumazemi to hold the line. Arachne admits that Sira has surprised her a little, but she immediately cuts him back down by making it clear that to her, he is still nothing compared with Kuga. Then she shifts her gaze toward the one standing farther back and dismisses that person as just as mediocre as ever. From there she presses the real point, calling out the party's entire approach and pointing out that it leaves their backline wide open. She wonders how they can afford a strategy like that while she is in this state. And the stream reacts instantly with pure alarm, flagging the situation as bad and crying out for Kushina. The next instant Arachne lunges, and Kushina is the one in her path. A scream tears out, the comments start yelling for her to run, and Kushina forces herself to move, while remembering the rule they lived by when Kumazemi had no tank. If things come down to it, the backline has to protect itself. She throws her body into a desperate evasive dive, and in the middle of that panic, blurts out that she used to be a complete monster in PE back in school. It sounds ridiculous, right up until it works. She slips past the attack by a hair, skids hard, tumbles across the ground, and the comments erupt over the save, calling the dive insane and way too close. When she finally stops, she stares down in shock and realizes that she actually dodged it all by herself. Arachne can only grunt through the frustration. That is when Arachne starts to understand what is bothering her. She cannot believe the party is really leaving its healer, that exposed and letting her survive on her own, and the camera cuts across the others while that realization sinks in. Kushina, still breathing hard, steadies herself and makes it clear that Arachne has been coming at her over and over again in the same way, like someone relying on one trick too many times in a row. Having read the pattern, she commits to the counter and activates Magic Boost, turning the escape into a setup instead of a miracle. Only then does Arachne notice the piece she missed. She realizes that the quiet woman in the back has been continuously feeding magic into the fight, and that the supposedly passive target has been strangely silent for a reason. The moment that thought hits, she visibly falters. The long-haired girl calmly checks whether the preparation is enough, and Sarah answers that it is. In one beat, the whole exchange flips. Arachne thought she was cornering a healer, but the party has been calmly building a response around her the entire time.